Hey, tonight, you're not in your bed. You're in a desert tent. The coarse sand blowing in through the gaps, the distant rhythmic rumble of a war drum vibrating deep in the ground. It's ancient Egypt, around 1285 BCE, a time of pharaohs and endless sun. Something rough and sharp is digging into your back, a piece of reed mat that's come undone, a small but persistent discomfort as the night gives way to a harsh dawn. You think being an Egyptian soldier was all golden chariots, grand processions, and the glory of the pharaoh's endless might. Try marching 20 blistering miles in coarse wool and bare feet under a sun that wants to bake you alive. Try fighting with a dull bronze spear that bends on impact. Try hoping your general doesn't forget your name, because if he does, you're less than dust. Your water skin smells like stale goat and regret, because it is, and you're grateful for every drop, no matter how foul. By the end of this quiet journey, you'll understand why simply surviving one brutal campaign in ancient Egypt was a miracle in itself, and why for most glory often meant nothing more than a forgotten grave in the endless sand. What time is it? Where you are right now, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Let me know in the comments below. And if you find yourself drawn to these strange, quiet dives into the ancient past, perhaps hit that subscribe button. It means more to me than you know, and it helps these stories find their way to more curious minds. Now, gently dim the lights around you. Let your body truly sink deep into the mattress, feeling its softness cradle you. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft, rhythmic background hum, a gentle white noise that helps the mind settle. Because tonight, you're not in control. You're not just listening. You are there. You're in history. And history, ancient, brutal, and utterly indifferent, doesn't care if you're cold, if you're tired, or if you're ready for what it's about to show you. You blink awake, not to the gentle chirping of birds, but to the insistent buzz of flies and the distant bray of a donkey already complaining about the day. Your bed is a thin, reed mat laid directly on the packed earth floor of a small, windowless hut. It's already warm, a dry, suffocating heat that promises a brutal day ahead, even before the sun truly crests the horizon. The air is thick with the scent of dried mud, stale sweat, and the faint, sweet, sickly smell of the nearby Nile, which you know also carries 1,000 unseen dangers. Your home is a simple mud brick dwelling, often just one room shared with your family, maybe a wife, a couple of children, and if you're lucky, just one goat or a few chickens wandering freely. The roof is thatched with palm fronds, offering meager shade, but little protection from the relentless sun or the occasional sandstorm. There's no proper door, just a coarse linen curtain perpetually open to the elements and the curious gaze of neighbors. Your body aches. The reed mat has done little to cushion you from the hard ground, and you push yourself up, feeling the familiar prickle of straw against your skin, and perhaps a phantom itch from the fleas that are your constant companions. Privacy is a luxury you've never known. Every sigh, every dream, every quiet grumble is shared with those around you, a communal existence where solitude is a foreign concept. Outside, the village is already stirring. The distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the cries of street vendors hawking their meager wares, the incessant bleating of sheep and goats all blend into a rough rhythmic symphony of ancient life. The smells are a complex bouquet: dust, animal dung, stale beer, and the ever-present cloying scent of the Nile. You're not even out of bed yet, and already the weight of the day with its heat, its demands, and its countless small discomforts is settling upon you. But the sun is rising, and with it, the relentless rhythm of ancient Egyptian life begins anew. Breakfast is a quick, silent affair, a grim formality before the endless toil begins. You squat by a low, rough-hewn table, or perhaps just the dirt floor, your stomach already rumbling with the familiar ache of emptiness. Your meal is simple, a hunk of coarse bread hard as a sun-baked brick, made from emmer wheat or barley. It's gritty, thanks to the sand that inevitably mixes with the grain during grinding, and it tastes of dry earth and resilience rather than flavor. This isn't the soft, fluffy bread of the pharaoh's table. It's dense enough to qualify as a weapon, and textured like limestone. Alongside the bread, you might get a few dried dates, sweet and sticky, a small mercy in the monotonous diet. Or perhaps a bruised onion pungent and sharp eaten raw to ward off the morning chill, or to make you forget you're hungry. There's no meat, not unless it's a festival day, or you've been lucky hunting a stray bird, which is rare. Fresh fruit is a seasonal luxury, quickly rotting, and sugar is expensive, hoarded by the rich. Your drink is weak, beer thick, and cloudy, more a liquid meal than a beverage. It's packed with calories and vaguely fermented, more porridge than pint. Even children drink it, not to be edgy, but because it's safer than water. At least the brewing process boils out the parasites. You gulp it down, feeling the familiar emptiness in your stomach that no amount of gritty bread or warm beer truly fills. This isn't hunger pangs. It's a constant low thrum of caloric insufficiency, a quiet reminder that every bite is a negotiation with survival. You eat quickly, silently, your eyes scanning the faces around you, assessing unspoken needs. There's no time for savoring, no luxury of choice. This food isn't for pleasure. It's fuel. Just enough to power your body for another day of relentless labor under a sun that wants to bake you like a pot. Bon appetit, you've had your gritty bread, your chunky beer, and just enough rest to call yourself functional. Now it's time for work, and trust me, ancient Egyptian labor makes modern burnout look like a spa day. In ancient Egypt, the gods aren't distant myths. They're your neighbors, your taskmasters, your very breath, an ever-present cloud of incense and obligation wrapped around every waking moment of your life. Ra, the sun god, is visible in the searing heat of the day, his unblinking eye scorching the earth. Osiris, lord of the underworld, watches over the Nile's annual flood, dictating your harvest and your very existence. There are gods for everything, for the scribes, for the harvests, for battle. Even for the tiny insects that plague your home. You don't just believe in them. You feel their presence, their whims, and their demands in every moment. The pharaoh, your king, is not merely a man. He is Horus, a living god, the son of Ra. His word is divine law, his authority unquestionable. To question him is to question the cosmos itself, and defying him could land you a date with a whip shackles or an early trip to the underworld with none of your favorite burial goods. Priests are the interpreters of the god's will, the gatekeepers of sacred knowledge. They manage the temples, conduct elaborate rituals, and interpret omens from the flight of birds or the shape of clouds. You offer them reverence tithes of your meager harvest and silent obedience. Their pronouncements on harvest war or illness are taken as direct messages from the divine. Superstition is your unwritten law. You wear amulets for protection, whisper prayers to ward off evil spirits, and avoid certain paths after dark for fear of vengeful ghosts. Every cough, every ache, every unexpected death is a sign, a message from the unseen world. The afterlife is taken very seriously. You don't just die. You must pass a judgment process involving your heart being weighed against a feather of truth. If your heart's heavier, you're eaten by a creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the legs of your worst nightmare. So yes, even in death, you're still on probation. Your daily routine revolves around pleasing them, trying to ensure your survival in this life and passage into the next, all while walking a tightrope between faith and fear. You hear the distant rumble now, not of thunder, but of thousands of marching feet. The air, already thick with dust, begins to carry a new scent, sweat bronze, and the unspoken tension of men preparing for something far grander and more terrifying than a normal day. Whispers have been spreading through the village for weeks, hushed conversations around the communal well, glances exchanged with grim understanding. The Hittites are stirring. Someone mutters, his voice low and fearful. The pharaoh needs more men. Another levy is coming. You try to ignore it, to focus on the relentless rhythm of your daily chores, the comfort of predictable misery. But the drums are growing louder, echoing not from the temple, but from the distant military camps. You see the scribes, now precise and unblinking, moving through the village with their papyrus rolls, marking names, assessing bodies, selecting futures. Your back stiffens, not from labor, but from dread. Your stomach, already empty, clenches further. You are a farmer, a potter, a builder. You are not a warrior. You have no spear, no shield, no training for the brutal dance of war. But in ancient Egypt, the pharaoh's will is absolute. And when the drums of war beat, every able-bodied man is merely a resource waiting to be conscripted. The normal misery of your life is about to be eclipsed by something far more brutal, far more demanding, and infinitely more dangerous. You cast a final, desperate glance back at your mud brick hut, at the anxious face of your wife, clutching your crying children. There are no goodbyes, just a shared, silent understanding of the abyss you're stepping into. The road ahead is dust, the sky is merciless, and the life you knew is already dissolving like sand in the wind. You are no longer just a peasant. You are a future soldier about to be swallowed by the silent grinding machine of Egyptian imperial ambition. And the desert, it waits for new blood. One morning, just like countless others, you wake to the familiar scent of baking bread and the crow of a rooster. But today, there's a different sound, a relentless thumping drumbeat echoing from the road leading into the village, tearing through the thin morning mist still clinging to the green rice fields. That drumbeat isn't the joyous rhythm of a festival or the steady cadence marking a new harvest season. It's heavy, insistent, carrying an ominous foreboding that every Egyptian knows the pharaoh's call for conscription. A chilling sensation runs down your spine, instantly dispelling the meager warmth left from your brief slumber. You rush out of your cramped mud brick dwelling, joining other villagers gathering in the central square. Anxiety and apprehension are etched onto every face, desperate eyes exchanging silent, fearful glances. Then they appear. Egyptian soldiers, their bronze armor gleaming harshly in the nascent light, accompanied by stern-faced officials, their expressions cold and unyielding, clutching papyrus scrolls in their hands, scrolls bearing the names of those about to be torn from their ordinary lives. A high-ranking official shouts the pharaoh's decree, demanding that all able-bodied men join the army. There's no room for negotiation, no chance for refusal. The pharaoh's word is divine law, the will of the gods made manifest on earth. Everyone knows this truth, a chilling certainty that makes your heart pound wildly against your ribs. You are no warrior, you are a farmer. Your entire life has been bound to the rhythm of the Nile, to the cycle of planting and harvesting, to the simple joys of village festivals. Now you are commanded to carry a spear, to bear a shield, to answer the call of a war you don't understand, against an enemy you've never seen. You tried desperately to find your wife and children in the chaotic crowd, to exchange one last, lingering glance before you're pushed forward, but their figures blur and recede in the rising dust, their faint cries blending with the relentless drumbeat. Your life, your family, everything you've ever known is being ripped apart in a single, brutal instant. And you know with a cold certainty there will be no proper farewells, just a sudden violent disappearance into a world alien to your very being. You feel yourself being swept away in a relentless current, the pounding drums ahead pulling you toward an unknown abyss. Your old life recedes behind you, replaced by a harsh reality where you are merely a tool in the hands of ultimate power, and every day is a desperate struggle for survival. Amidst the chaos and the muffled cries of the women, a few faint protest, desperate pleas rise from the assembled men, only to be violently silenced by the sharp crack of a lash and the brutal shouts of the soldiers. You watch, as an older man, perhaps the head of a large family, his face etched with hardship and his hands calloused from years of labor, tries to plead, offering reasons about his family's need, about the unfinished crops. But he receives only a harsh blow to the face by the butt of a soldier's spear, sending him sprawling into the dust. The power of the pharaoh's army is absolute, leaving no room for negotiation or resistance. The whip's crack echoes sharply, a chilling warning silencing any further attempts at defiance. The villagers, from the youngest to the oldest, bow their heads in resigned acceptance. They know that any resistance will only bring death or destruction upon their entire families, their entire village. They have witnessed worse, and submission is the only path to survival. You feel yourself being dragged along like an animal, stripped of voice, stripped of the right to determine your own fate. You are no longer a free man. You are a resource, a mere number in the scrolls of the officials, your destiny now dictated by the pharaoh's will. A profound fear engulfs you, fear of death, fear of oblivion. But more than that, a paralyzing dread of utter hopelessness. You understand there is nothing you can do to change this fate. You can only accept it taking one heavy, reluctant step after another on a path that feels like a dead end. The drums continued to pound, urging your feet onward away from your village, away from the life you knew. Every hope, every dream, every plan for the future dissolves like sand in the wind. Now, only existence remains a series of desperate, heavy steps on an inescapable road. The road leads you farther and farther from your village, each step a tearing away of your heart and irreparable severance. You become part of a long, endless procession, unfamiliar faces sharing the same fear, the same crushing uncertainty. Your life now lies entirely in the hands of strangers. The road to the military camp is a brutal, seemingly endless journey, a harsh initiation into your new life as a soldier, a cruel welcome to your new, terrifying reality. You and hundreds of other men are herded along like livestock, under the watchful eyes and sharp prods of armed soldiers. Red dust billows up with every step, obscuring your vision and making you feel as if you were swallowing the desert whole. The air is thick and hot, but water is scarce, and each meager sip, from a foul-smelling leather skin, is precious, never quite enough to quench the deep thirst that gnaws at your insides. By day, the scorching sun beats down, making you feel as though you are being baked alive. Your sweat quickly evaporating, leaving salty streaks on your skin. By night, the desert air turns cold, cutting through your thin, linen kilt, making you shiver uncontrollably as you long for the familiar warmth of your bed at home. Your feet, accustomed to soft mud, are now a landscape of blisters and bleeding cuts from sharp stones and burning sand. Every few hours, someone collapses from exhaustion or illness, and you watch as they are pulled from the line and left behind without a word, without a glance of pity. You know that could be your fate at any moment. The landscape slowly changes brutally. From the familiar fertile green fields near the Nile, where life thrived, you now see only vast stretches of desolate desert sand dunes, rippling like an endless, indifferent ocean. No trees, no shade, just emptiness and the oppressive heat. You feel isolated, cut off from the world you knew, cast into a place you cannot comprehend. The monotony of the march, the rhythmic thud of feet, the gasping breaths, the constant grit of dust all merge into a single exhausting symphony of fatigue and despair. You no longer think of anything but placing one foot in front of the other, step by agonizing step, like a puppet, controlled by an unseen force, devoid of emotion, devoid of will. Your first night's sleep in the military is on hard, cold ground, surrounded by hundreds of strangers. The cough, snores, and weak moans of the sick blend into a constant hum of suffering. You close your eyes, desperately seeking a moment of peace, but images of your family appear faint and distant, quickly dissolving in the harsh reality of your new existence. You know you are no longer the man from the village. You are a soldier, a small part of the pharaoh's colossal war machine. Your old life has receded, giving way to a harsh reality where you are merely a tool in the hands of ultimate power, and every day is a relentless struggle to simply exist. Every time you close your eyes, even for a fleeting moment of stolen rest amidst the camp's din and stench, the faces of your wife and children appear sharper and more vivid than the brutal reality around you. You see your wife's anxious face, her eyes red from weeping, and the muffled cries of your small children clutching at your legs. The worry for their well-being gnaws at you, a deeper, more persistent ache than any physical pain. You constantly wonder how they are surviving without you. Who will work the fields now? Who will fetch water from the Nile? Who will protect them from the harsh tax collectors or the roving bandits who prey on the vulnerable? There is no way to communicate, no news from your village. You are completely cut off from your old world, and this severance feels like a fresh wound reopening in your heart each day, each hour. A profound sense of helplessness washes over you, an insidious torment far worse than any bodily injury you've endured. You are a soldier, yet you cannot protect the very people who mean the most to you, the ones you swore to shelter. The fragile hope that you might one day return becomes a cruel burden intertwined with a chilling fear that you might only find unmarked graves or an empty, silent hut. You see other soldiers, their eyes distant and vacant, lost in similar meditations of despair, and a thin thread of silent understanding passes between you. Slowly, however, these haunting images begin to fade and your emotions grow numb, a gradual hardening of your spirit. It's not that your love for them diminishes, but that you simply cannot bear the relentless pain of worry every single day. You must protect yourself from these vulnerable emotions, for in the army, weakness means death. You learn to push away thoughts of home, allowing them only in brief, tortured dreams, then ruthlessly dispelling them with the harsh light of dawn. As you face another day of endless peril and fight for your own survival, your love for your family becomes a persistent, aching burden, a hidden sorrow you must bury deep, for, in this brutal world, any sign of vulnerability can be exploited, potentially costing you your very life. You are no longer, insert character's name, if applicable, the farmer from village name. Now you are merely a number, a shadow in the pharaoh's ranks, a faceless unit in his colossal war machine. From the moment you were forced into the ranks, your old identity was stripped away. No longer the man with a family, with a plot of land, with small humble dreams. Now you are Soldier No. Insert number, a unit in the formation, a cog in the gigantic impersonal machine of war. Everything you knew about life is turned upside down. The rules here are not the familiar customs of your village, but the iron discipline of the army, where resistance is punished by merciless death. You must learn to obey unconditionally, to remain silent when humiliated, to act purely on instinct for survival, and to forget everything you once were. Your language changes, shifting from the slow, gentle cadence of the fields to the curt, sharp commands of the drill ground. Personal freedom is completely abolished. You do not choose where you go, what you eat, or when you sleep. Every decision is made by those with absolute power over you, officers with emotionless faces and whips in their hands. You watch as others undergo the same transformation, their faces gradually hardening, their eyes growing vacant as if they have lost a part of their soul. You realize that to survive here, you must accept your new identity. You must become part of the machine, devoid of emotion, devoid of personal will. Hope slowly fades, replaced by a grim resignation and the acceptance of a cruel fate. You no longer dream of returning home in triumph or being reunited with your family. You only dream of surviving one more day. This is your harsh reality, and you must learn to exist within it at any cost, transforming yourself into a warrior who knows nothing but obedience and the brutal dictates of survival. Each step on the march is an affirmation of your new identity, an anonymous soldier, a tool in the pharaoh's hand, and a soul slowly eroded by pain and absolute control. One morning, just like countless others, you wake to the familiar scent of baking bread and the crow of a rooster. But today, there's a different sound, a relentless thumping drumbeat echoing from the road leading into the village, tearing through the thin morning mist still clinging to the green rice fields. That drumbeat isn't the joyous rhythm of a festival or the steady cadence marking a new harvest season. It's heavy, insistent, carrying an ominous foreboding that every Egyptian knows the pharaoh's call for conscription. A chilling sensation runs down your spine, instantly dispelling the meager warmth left from your brief slumber. You rush out of your cramped mud-brick dwelling, joining other villagers gathering in the central square. Anxiety and apprehension are etched onto every face, desperate eyes exchanging silent, fearful glances. Then they appear. Egyptian soldiers, their bronze armor gleaming harshly in the nascent light, accompanied by stern-faced officials, their expressions cold and unyielding, clutching papyrus scrolls in their hands, scrolls bearing the names of those about to be torn from their ordinary lives. A high-ranking official shouts the pharaoh's decree demanding that all able-bodied men join the army. There's no room for negotiation, no chance for refusal. The pharaoh's word is divine law, the will of the gods made manifest on earth. Everyone knows this truth, a chilling certainty that makes your heart pound wildly against your ribs. You are no warrior, you are a farmer. Your entire life has been bound to the rhythm of the Nile, to the cycle of planting and harvesting, to the simple joys of village festivals. Now you are commanded to carry a spear, to bear a shield, to answer the call of a war you don't understand against an enemy you've never seen. You try desperately to find your wife and children in the chaotic crowd, to exchange one last lingering glance before you're pushed forward, but their figures blur and recede in the rising dust, their faint cries blending with the relentless drumbeat. Your life, your family, everything you've ever known is being ripped apart in a single brutal instant. And you know with a cold certainty there will be no proper farewells, just a sudden, violent disappearance into a world alien to your very being. You feel yourself being swept away in a relentless current, the pounding drums ahead, pulling you toward an unknown abyss. Your old life recedes behind you, replaced by a harsh reality where you are merely a tool in the hands of ultimate power, and every day is a desperate struggle for survival. You're handed a dull bronze spear and a rough rawhide-covered wooden shield, objects that are supposed to protect your life, or worse, make your struggle against death more agonizing. Your spear is heavy and unbalanced, its bronze tip more prone to bending than piercing effectively, even with a strong thrust. You learn how to grip it, how to thrust, how to yank it back from an opponent's flesh in endless repetitive drills. These movements become ingrained reflexes, burning into your muscles. Your shoulders ache, your back feels like it's about to snap, and your legs tremble from the strain. The wooden shield, though seemingly sturdy, is notoriously brittle against heavy blows. You're taught to hold it firm, to brace yourself, to create an impenetrable wall of shields with your fellow soldiers in the phalanx formation. The primary tactic of the Egyptian army. This is your sole survival skill, protecting yourself and the man beside you, for the cohesion of the shield wall is the only thing standing between you and certain death. Injuries are inevitable. A missed block, a clumsy stumble, and you could suffer a severe wound. There's no medicine, no clean bandages, only a few rough herbs passed down by older soldiers, or simply enduring the pain and hoping for the best. You see other soldiers with broken bones, head wounds, or ceaseless bleeding. They are pulled from the ranks and disappear, never to be seen again. You know that any minor injury can become a death sentence in this world. You must learn to fight, not just with skill, but with primal instinct. In the chaos of battle, all rules vanish, leaving only raw survival. You must learn to strike back, to kill, to face death without flinching, because if you hesitate, death will devour you whole. Every calloused hand, every scar on your body is proof of your survival and a grim reminder of the price paid for existence, turning you into a ruthless fighting machine. The scorching Egyptian sun is the most terrifying enemy on the training ground, a relentless curse descending from the indifferent god Ra, slowly draining your strength and willpower. Every day you train under the blazing sun with no shade to offer respite, no cool breeze to soothe your burning skin. Sweat soaks your rough linen kilt, then quickly evaporates, leaving a fine layer of salt on your skin, dry and itchy. The thirst is a constant torment, a burning ache that cannot be quenched. Water is rationed severely, each sip more precious than gold, and you only dare to moisten your lips when you can no longer bear it. Heatstroke is common. You see other soldiers collapse on the training ground, their bodies burning hot, their eyes glazed over from dehydration. Sometimes they simply don't wake up again, lying there like desiccated husks under the sun. You know your body has limits, but you are not allowed to stop. The officers don't care about your fatigue or pain. They only demand that you continue until you drop. Gradually, you feel your body harden. You no longer feel the extreme heat as intensely as before. It becomes a part of you, a perpetual presence. Your skin is tanned dark, stiff like leather. You become one with the desert, enduring everything that nature and man throw at you. This isn't training to become a great warrior. It's tempering to become a machine, a tireless, fearless tool. You accept this, for it is the only way to survive. And deep down, you know that if you can endure this sun, you can endure anything, but at the cost of your physical and mental well-being being permanently eroded. Every drop of sweat that falls onto the training ground is a testament to your endurance and a silent promise that you will not easily yield. Yet it also marks the indelible curse you now carry. The sharp crack of the whip against the dry air is the most haunting sound on the training ground, a brutal reminder of the Army's iron discipline etched deep into your mind every single moment. You see other soldiers punished for the slightest infractions, a wrong move, a broken formation, a faint grumble, or even an inappropriate glance. The punishment is often a brutal whipping inflicted publicly before the entire squad, serving as a harsh warning to others. You see the raw welts on their backs, the flowing blood, and hear their weak moans. There is no right to defend yourself, no justice. The officer's word is law, and you must accept it. The fear of punishment is a powerful weapon forcing you to remain constantly vigilant, to obey every command absolutely without a hint of doubt or hesitation. You learn to move silently, to keep your eyes down, to make yourself invisible to the powerful officers. Your individuality, your private thoughts are crushed under the wheel of discipline. You are no longer an individual. You are part of a unified mass, a wall of men built to fight and die on command. All personal emotions are considered weaknesses, and you must learn to bury them deep, revealing no sign of vulnerability. You witness injustice, brutality, but you cannot speak out. Silence is your only shield, your only means of survival. You must accept that your life no longer belongs to you, but to the pharaoh, to the army, to a grander ideal you don't understand yet, are forced to believe in. And deep down, you start to believe it. You believe you are fighting for a noble cause, even if you don't fully grasp what it is. You believe your sacrifice is necessary. This is how they turn you into a warrior, not through conviction, but through fear and absolute submission, molding you into a perfect tool for war. This iron discipline not only creates resilient soldiers, but also transforms you into a different person, one who no longer knows personal freedom or emotion, merely a machine of unconditional obedience. Every day on the training ground is a cruel repetition of exercises, shouting, and fear eroding your spirit, like desert sand grinds down stone relentlessly. You lose all sense of time. One day is exactly like the next. A week passes as quickly as a blink, yet feels as long as a century. You no longer know what day it is, only that you must continue pushing yourself to the limit and beyond. The monotony of military life, with its repetitive rations, identical tired faces, and endless drills, forms a thick wall separating you from the outside world. Homesickness is a sharp knife twisting in your heart every night when images of your wife and children, of your small hut, appear more vividly than ever. You wonder what they are doing, if they still remember you, if they are surviving the famines and diseases. But then you must ruthlessly push these thoughts away, for they only weaken you, distracting you from your sole objective: survival. You learn to harden your emotions. The shouting, the violence, the daily deaths no longer startle you. You look at them with empty, indifferent eyes, as if they are an unavoidable part of existence. You become an unfeeling warrior, a mindless machine that only knows how to obey orders. Your only goal is to survive at any cost, caring for nothing else. All thoughts, all feelings are pushed aside, making room only for raw survival instinct. You no longer dream of glory, no longer crave recognition. You only want to live, to breathe, to escape this living hell. Your life shrinks, becoming only the present moment, where you must fight for every breath, every second of existence. This monotony and mental erosion transform you into an empty shell, a warrior devoid of emotion, left with only the primal instinct to survive in a brutal world and a grim acceptance of your fate. The march stretches endlessly, a dark red ribbon of dust under the blazing sun, each step an unceasing torment, an invisible razor blade cutting into your bare feet. You move in a long, endless line of soldiers, dust billowing up, with every step obscuring your vision. The oppressive heat radiates from the parched ground, seeping through your thin linen kilt, burning your skin. Each step is an immense effort. Your bare feet are blistered, cracked, and bleeding from sharp stones and the scorching sand. You see other soldiers struggling beside you, their faces drawn with exhaustion, their eyes glazed over from lack of sleep and relentless fatigue. Every few hours, someone collapses from exhaustion or illness. They are left behind without a word, without a glance of pity. You know that could be your fate at any moment. The landscape changes slowly, brutally. From the familiar, fertile green fields near the Nile, where life thrived, you now see only vast stretches of desolate desert sand dunes, rippling like an endless, indifferent ocean. No trees, no shade, just emptiness and oppressive heat, a landscape where life seems impossible to sustain. You feel isolated, cut off from the world you knew, cast into a place you cannot comprehend. The monotony of the march, the rhythmic thud of feet, the gasping breaths, the constant grit of dust all merge into a single, exhausting symphony of fatigue and despair. You no longer think of anything but placing one foot in front of the other, step by agonizing step, like a puppet controlled by an unseen force devoid of emotion, devoid of will. The march is not merely movement from point A to point B. It is a journey into the abyss of exhaustion and loneliness where every step is heavy with the meaning of survival, and you are just an anonymous phantom on a death road. The sensation of thirst is an invisible monster constantly lurking and gnawing at you with every mile of the march, a burning agony more intense than any sun-scorched wound. Water is life, and here life is scarcer than gold, more precious than any gem. Each soldier is given only a meager ration of water, daily carried in old, foul-smelling leather skins that taste of cured hide and stagnant water. You try to conserve every drop, only daring to moisten your lips when you can no longer bear it, each sip a sacred ritual. The water you do get often comes from dry, muddy wells, or worse, stagnant puddles where insects breed and animal carcasses decompose, turning the water into a putrid liquid. You know that drinking such water can make you severely ill, perhaps even lead to death. But there is no other choice. Sometimes you must fight with other soldiers for a few remaining sips. All dignity, all morality vanishes when thirst reaches its peak, leaving only primal instinct. Your lips are cracked and bleeding, your tongue cleaves to the roof of your mouth, and your entire body trembles from dehydration. You see other soldiers struggling, just as you are, their faces pale, their eyes vacant, lost in their own torment. Some collapse from dehydration, their bodies convulsing, before sinking into eternal unconsciousness. You know that you could be one of them at any moment. You live in a constant nightmare of thirst, dreaming of cool streams, clear puddles, but all are mere mirages. The reality is the heat, the thirst, and an emptiness that can never be truly filled. Thirst not only torments the body, but also erodes the spirit, transforming you into a delirious being, yearning only for a clean drop of water to survive a craving never fully satisfied. The desert is not merely the path you must cross. It is a living, breathing enemy teeming with hidden threats beneath every dune, constantly lurking to devour you whole. At any moment, a sandstorm can erupt without warning, transforming the clear blue sky into a terrifying orange wall of dust. The wind howls like angry spirits, whipping sand and small stones against your face, making it impossible to open your eyes or breathe. You must bury your face in the ground, trying to snatch every breath, feeling the grit of sand in your teeth and nose your eyes burning. After the storm, the landscape is utterly transformed. Dunes, shifted pathways, buried, leaving you, and the entire army disoriented, lost in the vastness. But that is not all. The desert is home to deadly creatures. Venomous snakes coil under sun-baked rocks, their scales blending with the sand, making them almost impossible to spot. A sudden bite can inject venom into your body, causing searing pain, high fever, delirium, and eventually death. Scorpions lurk in the shadows, ready to deliver a fatal sting. You have no antidote, no significant means of protection other than sheer luck. At night, the distant howling of jackals and hyenas echoes a chilling reminder that you are prey in this harsh food chain, a small, weak creature. You feel utterly tiny and helpless before the immense power of nature. There is nowhere to hide, no one to call for help. You are completely alone in the vast desert, where life and death are separated by a mere instant, a blink of an eye. This harsh nature not only tests your body, but also threatens your spirit, turning the desert into an unseeming battlefield where you must constantly be vigilant to survive, and every moment of existence is a fragile gift. In the army, death doesn't just come from an enemy spear or arrow. It also comes from invisible foes, diseases that constantly lurk and claim lives daily, an unseen death sentence that cannot be fought. You witness diseases spreading rapidly through the ranks like a great fire igniting in the night. A small fever, an infected wound, unceasing diarrhea, all can be the start of a tragedy. Poor hygiene is the main cause. Unsafe drinking, water, unsanitary food, and hundreds, even thousands of men living in cramped, unhygienic camps with no proper sanitation or waste disposal create an ideal environment for pathogens to thrive. You know that drinking such water is a gamble, with death potentially leading to diarrhea fever or even rapid demise. Medical practitioners in the Army are often just older soldiers with some folk remedies or traditional cures passed down orally. They lack true medical knowledge. When you fall ill, they might offer you bitter herbs, perform desperate prayers, or simply leave you to fight the sickness alone. You see other soldiers struggling with high fevers, delirium, their bodies convulsing in constant agony. Their weak coughs and desperate retching echo through the camp, signaling an inevitable end. The dead are buried quickly, sometimes in shallow sand graves, without ceremony or prayers. The stench of death hangs heavy in the air, a cloying, sickly perfume that reminds you of your own mortality. Fear engulfs you, wondering when you will be next. You question if the gods are punishing you, or if this is just the cruel destiny of a soldier. Despair slowly creeps into your mind as you realize that no matter how bravely you fight, you cannot escape the invisible hand of this unseen killer. Disease becomes a more terrifying enemy than any army. It gnaws at you from within, transforming you into a walking corpse awaiting your anonymous end. Even surrounded by hundreds of other soldiers, you feel more isolated than ever. Homesickness, like a sharp knife, piercing your heart every night. A dull, aching pain that never truly stops. You remember your wife's laughter, the smell of smoke from your family's hearth, the playful shouts of your children. These images appear vividly in your mind, a cruel reminder of the life you've lost. You try to talk to other soldiers, seeking some empathy, some connection, but everyone carries their own pain. Everyone tries to harden their emotions to survive. Isolation is a heavy burden, an invisible wall separating you from the outside world. Gradually, you learn to isolate yourself, to reveal no emotion, for in this army, weakness means death. Homesickness no longer brings tears, but only a cold, empty void. You no longer hope for a return home. You focus solely on surviving the present moment. Your spirit slowly hardens. You no longer feel fear in the face of death, no longer feel pain from your wounds. You become an unfeeling warrior, a mindless machine that only obeys orders. Your only goal is to survive at any cost. All thoughts, all feelings are pushed aside, making room only for raw survival instinct. You no longer dream of glory, no longer crave recognition. You only want to live to breathe, to escape this living hell. Your life shrinks, becoming only these present moments where you must fight for every breath, every second of existence. Homesickness and the hardening of your spirit transform you into an invisible shadow within the army's ranks, a living ghost left with only the primal instinct to survive. The march stretches endlessly, a dark, red ribbon of dust under the blazing sun, each step an unceasing torment, an invisible razor blade cutting into your bare feet. You move in a long, endless line of soldiers' dust, billowing up with every step, obscuring your vision and making you feel as if you are swallowing the desert whole. The oppressive heat radiates from the parched ground, seeping through your thin linen kilt, burning your skin. Each step is an immense effort. Your bare feet are blistered, cracked, and bleeding from sharp stones and the scorching sand. You see other soldiers struggling beside you, their faces drawn with exhaustion, their eyes glazed over from lack of sleep and relentless fatigue. Every few hours, someone collapses from exhaustion or illness, and you watch as they are pulled from the line and left behind without a word, without a glance of pity. You know that could be your fate at any moment. The landscape slowly changes brutally. From the familiar fertile green fields near the Nile where life thrived, you now see only vast stretches of desolate desert sand dunes, rippling like an endless indifferent ocean. No trees, no shade, just emptiness and oppressive heat, a landscape where life seems impossible to sustain. You feel isolated, cut off from the world you knew, cast into a place you cannot comprehend. The monotony of the march, the rhythmic thud of feet, the gasping breaths, the constant grit of dust, all merge into a single, exhausting symphony of fatigue and despair. You no longer think of anything but placing one foot in front of the other, step by agonizing step, like a puppet controlled by an unseen force, devoid of emotion, devoid of will. The march is not merely movement from point A to point B. It is a journey into the abyss of exhaustion and loneliness, where every step is heavy with the meaning of survival, and you are just an anonymous phantom on a death road. The sensation of thirst is an invisible monster constantly lurking and gnawing at you with every mile of the march, a burning agony more intense than any sun-scorched wound. Water is life, and here life is scarcer than gold, more precious than any gem. Each soldier is given only a meager ration of water, daily carried in old, foul-smelling leather skins that taste of cured hide and stagnant water. You try to conserve every drop, only daring to moisten your lips when you can no longer bear it, each sip a sacred ritual. The water you do get often comes from dry, muddy wells, or worse, stagnant puddles, where insects breed and animal carcasses decompose, turning the water into a putrid liquid. You know that drinking such water can make you severely ill, perhaps even lead to death. But there is no other choice. Sometimes you must fight with other soldiers for a few remaining sips. All dignity, all morality vanishes when thirst reaches its peak, leaving only primal instinct. Your lips are cracked and bleeding. Your tongue cleaves to the roof of your mouth, and your entire body trembles from dehydration. You see other soldiers struggling just as you are, their faces pale, their eyes vacant, lost in their own torment. Some collapse from dehydration, their bodies convulsing before sinking into eternal unconsciousness. You know that you could be one of them at any moment. You live in a constant nightmare of thirst, dreaming of cool streams, clear puddles, but all are mere mirages. The reality is the heat, the thirst, and an emptiness that can never be truly filled. Thirst not only torments the body but also erodes the spirit, transforming you into a delirious being, yearning only for a clean drop of water to survive a craving never fully satisfied. The desert is not merely the path you must cross. It is a living, breathing enemy, teeming with hidden threats beneath every dune, constantly lurking to devour you whole. At any moment, a sandstorm can erupt without warning, transforming the clear blue sky into a terrifying orange wall of dust. The wind howls like angry spirits, whipping sand and small stones against your face, making it impossible to open your eyes or breathe. You must bury your face in the ground, trying to snatch every breath, feeling the grit of sand in your teeth and nose your eyes burning. After the storm, the landscape is utterly transformed. Dunes, shifted pathways buried, leaving you and the entire army disoriented, lost in the vastness. But that is not all. The desert is home to deadly creatures. Venomous snakes coil under sun-baked rocks, their scales blending with the sand, making them almost impossible to spot. A sudden bite can inject venom into your body, causing searing pain, high fever, delirium, and eventually death. Scorpions lurk in the shadows, ready to deliver a fatal sting. You have no antidote, no significant means of protection other than sheer luck. At night, the distant howling of jackals and hyenas echoes a chilling reminder that you are prey in this harsh food chain, a small, weak creature. You feel utterly tiny and helpless before the immense power of nature. There is nowhere to hide, no one to call for help. You are completely alone in the vast desert where life and death are separated by a mere instant, a blink of an eye. This harsh nature not only tests your body, but also threatens your spirit, turning the desert into an unceasing battlefield where you must constantly be vigilant to survive, and every moment of existence is a fragile gift. In the army, death doesn't just come from an enemy spear or arrow. It also comes from invisible foes. Diseases that constantly lurk and claim lives, daily an unseen death sentence that cannot be fought. You witness diseases spreading rapidly through the ranks like a great fire igniting in the night. A small fever, an infected wound, unceasing diarrhea, all can be the start of a tragedy. Poor hygiene is the main cause. Unsafe drinking water, unsanitary food, and hundreds, even thousands of men living in cramped, unhygienic camps with no proper sanitation or waste disposal create an ideal environment for pathogens to thrive. You know that drinking such water is a gamble, with death potentially leading to diarrhea, fever, or even rapid demise. Medical practitioners in the Army are often just older soldiers with some folk remedies or traditional cures passed down orally. They lack true medical knowledge. When you fall ill, they might offer you bitter herbs, perform desperate prayers, or simply leave you to fight the sickness alone. You see other soldiers struggling with high fevers, delirium, their bodies convulsing in constant agony. Their weak coughs and desperate retching echo through the camp, signaling an inevitable end. The dead are buried quickly, sometimes in shallow sand graves, without ceremony or prayers. The stench of death hangs heavy in the air, a cloying, sickly perfume that reminds you of your own mortality. Fear engulfs you, wondering when you will be next. You question if the gods are punishing you, or if this is just the cruel destiny of a soldier. Despair slowly creeps into your mind as you realize that no matter how bravely you fight, you cannot escape the invisible hand of this unseen killer. Disease becomes a more terrifying enemy than any army. It gnaws at you from within, transforming you into a walking corpse awaiting your anonymous end. Even surrounded by hundreds of other soldiers, you feel more isolated than ever. Homesickness, like a sharp knife, piercing your heart every night, a dull, aching pain that never truly stops. You remember your wife's laughter, the smell of smoke from your family's hearth, the playful shouts of your children. These images appear vividly in your mind, a cruel reminder of the life you've lost. You try to talk to other soldiers, seeking some empathy, some connection, but everyone carries their own pain. Everyone tries to harden their emotions to survive. Isolation is a heavy burden, an invisible wall separating you from the outside world. Gradually, you learn to isolate yourself, to reveal no emotion, for in this army, weakness means death. Homesickness no longer brings tears, but only a cold, empty void. You no longer hope for a return home. You focus solely on surviving the present moment. Your spirit slowly hardens. You no longer feel fear in the face of death. No longer feel pain from your wounds. You become an unfeeling warrior, a mindless machine that only obeys orders. Your only goal is to survive at any cost, caring for nothing else. All thoughts, all feelings are pushed aside, making room only for raw survival instinct. You no longer dream of glory, no longer crave recognition. You only want to live, to breathe, to escape this living hell. Your life shrinks, becoming only these present moments, where you must fight for every breath, every second of existence. Homesickness and the hardening of your spirit transform you into an invisible shadow within the army's ranks, a living ghost left with only the primal instinct to survive. In the military camp, mealtime isn't a moment for rest or enjoyment. It's another battle for survival where you must fight for every bite to keep yourself from collapsing. Your rations are a cruel, monotonous repetition, a piece of bread as hard as a sun-baked brick, often mixed with grit and sand in a bowl of thin, cloudy beer that tastes of fermented grain and sour water. That's all you receive to sustain life after grueling hours of training and marching. Meat is a distant luxury, appearing only in dreams or on rare festival days, if the pharaoh is feeling particularly generous. Vegetables, if any, are merely a few dried onions or garlic cloves, added to lend a sharp flavor to the otherwise bland bread, or perhaps to mask the faint, unsettling odor of stale food. You learn to eat quickly, swallowing each bite in haste, because if you hesitate, others might snatch your portion. Eyes are constantly scanning, suspicious glances exchanged as you understand that in these conditions, true friendship is a fragile concept overshadowed by the brutal competition for survival. The lack of nutrition slowly drains your body. Your skin grows pale, your eyes sink deep into their sockets, and your muscles visibly waste away. The hunger is a perpetual torment, a monster gnawing at your stomach every second, making it hard to focus on anything else. Sometimes, in desperation, you and other soldiers resort to foraging. A crawling insect, a dry root, even a discarded animal carcass, anything becomes a precious source of sustenance as long as it can keep you alive for another day. You no longer care about taste or cleanliness. The sole objective is to fill your empty stomach. Every meal is a grim reminder of life's fragility, where you constantly battle hunger, and human dignity can be exchanged for a single piece of hard bread. Hygiene is a forgotten luxury, a distant memory from a life you no longer recognize. In the military camp, you exist in a perpetual state of grime where every corner harbors potential disease and discomfort. A fine layer of red desert dust clings to your skin, seeping deep into every fiber of the rough linen kilt you wear day after day, week after week. Dried sweat forms salty streaks, mingling with the unpleasant body odor of hundreds of other soldiers. You have no clean water for washing. The water from the Nile, when available, is murky with silt and teeming with countless pathogens. Wells in the camp are often depleted or contaminated. Washing is merely a perfunctory ritual. You use a small amount of precious water to splash your face and arms, trying in vain to rinse away some of the dirt, but it's futile. Lice and bedbugs are your constant companions. They infest your hair and skin, causing relentless itching that drives you to distraction. You see other soldiers scratching constantly, sometimes even stripping off their kilts to pick off the parasites, a common sight that no one finds shameful or surprising. The stench from open latrine pits, decaying animal carcasses, and infected wounds permeates the entire camp, thick and oppressive. You learn to breathe shallowly, to live with the foul odors, for it is the only way to exist without constant nausea. Small cuts and abrasions from training or marching easily become infected. They swell, ooze pus, and sometimes turn into horrific ulcers, threatening your life. You know that disease constantly lurks, and at any moment, a minor fever or a bout of dysentery can claim your life. You live in perpetual fear of this unseen enemy, knowing you could succumb at any time without ever facing a human foe. Living in such unsanitary conditions is a ceaseless torment, a brutal reminder of your body's fragility against invisible enemies, the deadly pathogens that constantly stalk you. In the military camp, you have no true friends, only fellow sufferers, bound by a shared fear and a common brutal destiny. Relationships among soldiers are a complex mix of intense competition and a fragile sense of camaraderie. You must always be vigilant for, in this environment of extreme scarcity and pressure, anyone can become your rival. A stray piece of bread, a slightly better sleeping spot, a whispered lie to escape punishment, all can lead to fierce disputes and conflicts. High-ranking officers often exploit this competition to maintain control. They reward informants and punish those perceived as weak, sowing discord and deepening fear. You witness soldiers betraying one another for a meager advantage or to avoid a harsh penalty. The fear of betrayal is a heavy burden, forcing you to maintain a distance, never revealing too much about yourself. Though living in cramped tents, you feel isolated in the crowd. Each man is an island wrestling with his own pain and fear. However, sometimes in moments of extreme vulnerability, a flicker of humanity shines through. A soldier shares a last sip of water, a quiet pat on the shoulder, a shared sigh of despair when witnessing a horror. These are rare sparks moments when you feel you are not entirely alone. They serve as a stark reminder that no matter how hardened you've become, you are still human. Yet this fragile bond is quickly forgotten as the relentless grind of military life reasserts itself, pushing each man back into his own solitary struggle. Life in the military camp is a league of fear where fragile camaraderie is overshadowed by competition and suspicion, and where each man must rely on himself to survive. Sleep is a fragile luxury, a fleeting escape from a harsh reality, but even in slumber, you find no true peace as the horrors of the day invade your mind. When night falls, the military camp plunges into a thick, suffocating darkness. Yet it is never truly silent. The guttural snores of a dozen men, the incessant coughing, the weak moans of the sick, the ceaseless buzzing of insects, all merge into a symphony of exhaustion and suffering. You lie on the hard ground or on a thin reed mat, your body aching and sore. The putrid smell from the open latrine pits the acrid scent of sweat, and the faint, sweet, sickly odor of decaying animals permeate the air, making it hard to breathe and inducing nausea. You try to close your eyes, but the day's images relentlessly replay in your mind: the faces of fallen soldiers, the screams of the enemy, the desperate eyes of abandoned comrades. Nightmares are an inevitable companion. You see yourself caught in battle, a spear piercing your body, or collapsing amidst the chaos left behind. Or you dream of returning home only to find your village destroyed, your family vanished, leaving behind only emptiness and silence. You wake in a cold, panic sweat drenching your body, your heart pounding. The exhaustion from lack of sleep is not just physical, it penetrates deep into your spirit. You feel worn down, drained of energy, yearning for a deep, dreamless sleep free from all torment. But that is impossible. You know you must always be vigilant, for even in sleep the enemy might lurk, or a sudden command could rouse you at any moment. Your mind and body are screaming for a reprieve that rarely, if ever, comes. Sleep in the military camp is another battle where your mind relentlessly replays horrors and losses, turning the night into an unending torment devoid of any true peace. In the military camp, you are never truly alone. The eyes of the officers constantly follow you, and the slightest mistake can lead to brutal punishments. From dawn until dusk, and even in the darkness of night, you feel an unceasing sense of being watched. High-ranking officers with cold eyes and whips in hand patrol the camp, searching for lazy or weak soldiers, or any sign of insubordination. A slow movement during drill, a quiet grumble, a fleeting glance of defiance. Any of these can be considered an offense and lead to immediate harsh punishment. You witness brutal whippings, seeing the raw welts on the backs of your comrades, hearing their weak moans as a stark warning to others. There is no right to defend yourself, no justice. The officer's word is law, and you must accept it without question. If you are accused, even falsely, it is nearly impossible to prove your innocence. You could be deprived of rations, forced into more arduous tasks, or worse, summarily executed. The fear of punishment is a powerful weapon, forcing you to remain constantly vigilant, to obey every command, absolutely without a hint of doubt or hesitation. You learn to make yourself invisible to blend into the crowd, revealing no personal thoughts or individuality. Personal freedom is completely abolished. You are not allowed to have any opinions or desires other than to obey orders. Human dignity is trampled, and you slowly learn to accept it. In the military camp, you are not a person with emotions and thoughts. You are merely a tool, a number in the pharaoh's ledger to be used and discarded at will. Constant surveillance and punishment transform your life into a living hell, where fear is your only companion, and where all personal freedom and dignity are stripped away by absolute power. Your armor is a cruel joke, heavy, ill-fitting, and utterly inadequate for the brutal realities of combat. A nightmare forged not for glory, but for sheer endurance under the scorching Egyptian sun. Your helmet, a thick leather cap reinforced with crude bronze plates, offers meager protection, but chafes your scalp and traps the relentless desert heat, making your head feel like a baked clay pot. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes, blurring your vision as you struggle to see through the dust and glare. Your chest piece, a simple leather or linen tunic adorned with a few small, roughly hammered bronze discs, offers flimsy defense against a piercing spear thrust, yet it's heavy enough to constrict your breathing and accelerate your exhaustion. The large wooden shield covered in hardened oxhide is cumbersome and unwieldy, a constant drag on your arm making every movement a deliberate effort. It provides limited protection against direct blows, often splintering on impact, yet you cling to it as your only real defense. You move slowly, awkwardly, like a beetle, burdened by its shell, struggling with every step. The constant friction from the rough leather and bronze causes chafing, leading to raw skin, painful sores, and incessant itching under the sweltering heat. Your skin darkens and cracks from sun exposure, perpetually covered in a fine layer of dust and dried sweat. You yearn for the lighter, more ornate armor depicted in the pharaoh's murals, knowing it's a dream forever out of reach. There are no padded underlayers for comfort, no gloves to protect your calloused hands, no knee or elbow guards. Every piece of your equipment feels like a burden, a weight that saps your strength before you even face a foe. In the chaos of battle, the heavy shield twists your arm, the clumsy spear catches on your tunic, and your sandals slip on the blood-slicked ground. You're not a shining warrior. You're a man struggling with ill-suited tools, desperately trying to survive a fight, with nothing but sheer luck, and the fragile hope that your bronze won't betray you. This gear isn't a badge of honor. It's a testament to your expendability, designed to be cheap to replace, just like the man who wears it. This armor is not a source of pride but a ceaseless burden, a grim reminder of the scarcity and fragility of a soldier's life, where even protection comes with its own torment. The dull bronze spear in your hand is the only thing standing between you and death yet. It's an unreliable companion, easily bending or snapping in the most crucial moments, leaving you utterly helpless. Your spearhead, crafted from bronze, is a soft metal compared to the iron wielded by some of your northern enemies, like the Hittites. It frequently bends or dulls after just a few impactful strikes, rendering your primary weapon almost useless. You're forced to constantly sharpen it with rough stones, but no matter how much effort you put in, it never achieves the deadly sharpness required for efficient killing. When your spear breaks, which it often does, you must resort to a short bronze dagger or a stone axe, secondary weapons far less effective in formation combat. The dagger is too short for reach, suitable only for terrifyingly close-quarters fighting. The axe is cumbersome, difficult to wield effectively in the crowded ranks of a phalanx. You haven't received extensive training with these secondary weapons. Any skill you possess is born of desperate self-preservation. In the chaos of battle, losing your primary weapon or having it fail is a constant terrifying possibility. You've seen other soldiers lose their spears, forced to fight barehanded, desperately grappling with opponents or using their flimsy shields for defense, only to be overwhelmed and cut down. The dread of that happening to you is a persistent chill in your gut. You know that if your weapon is stripped away, you become utterly vulnerable, an easy target for the enemy. This forces you to learn how to fight barehanded, using your fists, your feet, anything that can inflict damage. It's not a skill taught in military drills, but a primal survival instinct awakened when you stand on the precipice of life and death. Every swing, every thrust is a gamble, a desperate plea to the gods that your weapon will hold true for just one more moment. Unreliable weapons turn every battle into a terrifying gamble, where you constantly grapple with your own helplessness, and where your preparation can vanish in an instant, leaving you exposed. Your footwear consists of rough sandals made from woven reeds or coarse leather, offering little protection from the brutal desert terrain, where every single step is a torment that grinds at your feet. Most of the time you march barefoot, your skin directly exposed to sharp stones, scorching sand, or dusty paths littered with animal waste. Your feet, once accustomed to the soft mud of the Nile fields, are now relentlessly assaulted. Large blisters form on your soles, bursting open, bleeding, and quickly becoming infected in the unsanitary conditions. Deep cracks appear on your heels, each step sending a jolt of searing pain through your body. You see other soldiers with similar conditions, some with horrific ulcers from untreated infections or insect bites, others with twisted ankles from falls on uneven ground. Mud, sand, and dust cling to your open wounds, turning them into festering breeding grounds for bacteria. There's no medicine, no clean bandages. You might try to apply a few wild herbs or some cool mud to the wounds, hoping for some relief, but often the infections worsen, leading to high fevers, delirium, and the grim prospect of losing mobility or even life. The desert heat exacerbates the situation, making wounds slow to heal and prone to rampant infection. At night, your feet throb ceaselessly, swollen and aching. You try to rub them, but it's futile. You know that if your feet fail, you will be left behind, abandoned in the cold, vast desert. Your ability to march is severely compromised. Every step becomes an immense act of will, demanding that you push past the excruciating pain. This relentless torment transforms your feet from instruments of movement into perpetual sources of suffering, a constant physical burden that never truly goes away. Your feet, the very pillars of your survival, become your greatest weakness, constantly tormented and threatened, turning every step into a brutal reminder of your fragile existence. Beyond your rough armor and dull bronze spear, you possess virtually nothing of your own. Your life is stripped of all personal comforts, forcing you into an existence of extreme deprivation. You have no spare clothes, only the coarse linen kilt you wear day in and day out. It's stained ragged and permeated with the smell of sweat and dust. You own no warm blankets. Instead, you use your kilt or a stiff piece of animal hide to ward off the biting cold of the desert nights. There is no toothbrush. You might occasionally rub your gums with salt or a dry twig if you even bother. You possess no personal entertainment, no books, no games, no small trinkets. Your life revolves solely around training, marching fighting, followed by long, monotonous periods of exhaustion, and waiting in camp. Each night you lie awake, staring up at the star-filled sky, remembering the stories your grandfather used to tell the songs your wife used to sing. But now, all of it feels like a distant, unreachable memory. This deprivation doesn't just affect your body. It slowly erodes your spirit. You feel stripped of all joy, all comfort. Everything you once cherished now seems meaningless, a luxury you can no longer afford. You are completely dependent on what the army provides, and this dependence makes you feel less human, more like a mere machine fueled and maintained for the purpose of war. Occasionally, you might spot another soldier with a small personal item, a carved amulet, a smooth river stone, a tiny worn figurine, and you feel a strange pang of longing. These are invaluable objects, faint connections to their past lives, to their identities. But for you, such connections are few and far between. Your existence is reduced to its barest essentials, a stark, functional reality where personal possessions are a forgotten concept and comfort is an illusion. The lack of personal belongings reduces your life to a stark existence where everything is stripped away and human value is equated with usefulness in war, leaving you with nothing but the clothes on your back and the grim determination to survive. Each time you march, your rough armor, heavy spear, and cumbersome shield transform into a ceaseless burden, weighing you down, relentlessly draining your strength under the scorching sun. The weight of your armor and weapons seems to double with each mile you cover. The shield strap digs into your shoulder, causing raw chafing and persistent pain. Your bronze spear and dagger clatter against each other with a monotonous rhythm, a constant reminder of their presence. You must continuously inspect your gear, ensuring nothing is lost or damaged. Maintaining weapons and armor in the harsh desert environment is a formidable challenge. The relentless sun and dry air make the leather brittle, prone to cracking. Dust clings to every surface, quickly dulling the bronze and causing rust. You try to wipe them clean with rough cloths, but it's an endless battle. In the chaos of battle, your weapons and armor suffer immense wear and tear. Bronze spears bend wooden shields, splinter daggers dull quickly. Losing a piece of equipment is not just a loss of protection, but a severe offense, potentially leading to harsh punishment. You could be accused of negligence, beaten, or deprived of rations, increasing your risk of death. This also means you fight with fewer weapons, with less protection, making you an easier target. Even simple actions like relieving yourself or resting become awkward and uncomfortable with the heavy gear. You must carefully remove it, then struggle to put it back on. The constant physical exertion, coupled with the discomfort of your equipment, leaves you perpetually exhausted, your body aching and bruised. Every movement is a struggle, every breath a conscious effort. You watch as older soldiers, their bodies already ravaged by years of campaigning, move with a painful stiffness, knowing that this is your inevitable future if you survive long enough. The burden of your equipment is not just physical but mental, a grim reminder of your dependence on these primitive tools and the fragility of a soldier's life. The moment before battle is a terrifying silence, a chilling stillness that is heavier than the clamor of thousands of marching feet or the clang of metal. The air is thick with the metallic tang of cold sweat, the acrid scent of stale bronze, and the faint, unsettling smell of unwashed bodies. You stand, packed shoulder to shoulder in the ranks, your eyes fixed straight ahead, where the enemy waits, a hazy, indistinct mass. Your heart pounds wildly against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat in your chest, threatening to burst free. From behind the drums begin their relentless dunning rhythm, slowly building, then the shrill cry of bronze trumpets pierces the air high and piercing like a summons from the underworld. It is the symphony of death, a brutal reminder that there is no turning back. A primal, uncontrollable fear engulfs you, making your hands tremble, your legs weak. You see other soldiers shaking too, their faces pale, their eyes wide with terror, but no one dares to turn around. They, like you, are trapped between paralyzing dread and rigid discipline. Thoughts of death and family flash through your mind like lightning. You wonder, will I survive this battle? Who will care for my wife and children if I fall? Your body stiffens, refusing to obey, as if transformed into a living statue. Your hand clenches around the bronze spear, sweat making the grip slippery. Your mouth is dry, your tongue thick, and you cannot swallow. You want to scream, to run, to do anything to escape this hell. But you cannot. You are trapped, bound by discipline, by fear, by an inescapable destiny. And then a single guttural roar erupts from the ranks ahead, shattering the terrifying silence. The charge has begun. The fear before battle not only torments your body but also racks your mind, transforming you into a delirious being, simply awaiting the swift, inevitable descent of death's scythe. When the two armies finally clash, the battlefield transforms into a living hell, a chaotic symphony of violence, the ghastly screams of death and boundless brutality. The air is rent with screams, the pained cries of the wounded, the desperate gasps of the dying, the relentless clang of bronze against bronze, the sickening crunch of bone, all merging into a horrifying cacophony that tears at your ears. Your eyes are blurred by dust, sweat, and blood. You can't clearly see anything, only indistinct shadows clashing, thrusting, hacking, punching. The coppery scent of fresh blood fills your nostrils, mingling with the acrid smell of sweat, dry earth, and rotting flesh. You lose all sense of space and time. Everything becomes an unending whirlwind of violence. You thrust your spear, pull it back, and thrust again. You parry with your shield, dodge, and parry once more. Your body moves automatically, driven by primal survival instinct, devoid of conscious thought. You no longer feel fear, only a profound emptiness, and a strange, chilling detachment. You see the soldier next to you fall, but you cannot stop to help him. You must keep fighting, or you will be next. Horrific scenes relentlessly flash before your eyes, a soldier disemboweled his entrails, spilling onto the ground, another impaled by a spear. His body convulsing in agony, another crushed beneath the wheels of a chariot. These gruesome images are etched deep into your mind, haunting you even when you manage to survive. The battlefield isn't just where bodies are broken. It's where souls are shattered, leaving behind a hollow void that no victory can ever fill. The battlefield is where souls are ravaged, where humanity is crushed, and where you must endlessly fight to protect your life, while simultaneously confronting your own spiritual annihilation. The moment your spear pierces the flesh of another human being is an electric shock that courses through your entire body, a horrifying instant that simultaneously reshapes who you are. The first time you kill someone, you feel utterly stunned, a wave of profound nausea rising from the depths of your being. You don't want to believe you've done it, that you've taken a human life. But then you must quickly push that emotion aside, for the battle offers no room for weakness. In subsequent encounters, that initial shock gradually fades. Nausea gives way to callousness and bewilderment to indifference. You no longer see your enemy as a person, but as an obstacle, a target that must be eliminated for your own survival. Blood and screams no longer startle you. You become a part of the killing machine, an emotionless instrument. The distinction between you and the enemy blurs. Both of you are merely humans fighting to survive, both trapped in this relentless cycle of violence. Your mind grows cold, focusing solely on the task at hand, oblivious to the consequences. After each battle, you feel a deep emptiness, an overwhelming exhaustion, not physical fatigue, but the profound weariness of the soul. You wonder, am I still human? Or have I transformed into a monster, an emotionless killer? You accept this killer's instinct, for it is the only way to survive in this brutal world. This is your destiny, and you must live with it, carrying the weight of each life taken. The act of killing reshapes who you are, transforming you into an emotionless assassin, a part of the brutal war machine forever haunted by the specters of the fallen. In every battle, you don't just fight for yourself. You fight for the soldiers standing beside you, the comrades with whom you've shared meager rations, fitful sleep, and unspoken fears. Their fall leaves a lingering, silent ache. You watch as the soldiers beside you collapse. One is pierced through the chest by an enemy spear, his eyes wide with a final, desperate stare before dimming forever. Another falls with an arm severed, his horrific screams tearing through the cacophony of battle. You want to reach out to help them, but you cannot. You must keep fighting, or you will be the next to fall. A profound sense of helplessness and guilt washes over you. You ask yourself, why him and not me? Could I have done something to save him? But then you must quickly push these thoughts away, for they only weaken your resolve. The fear of death draws closer. You know that you too could fall at any moment, and no one will stop to help you. You will be left behind, forgotten, among thousands of corpses. The fallen are quickly forgotten. Their names are not spoken. Their stories are not told. They are merely numbers in the army's ledger bodies, hastily buried or left to the mercy of nature. Gradually, you grow numb. You no longer feel intense pain when a comrade falls. You accept it as an inevitable part of war. You tell yourself, this is our destiny, and we cannot change it. Each fallen comrade is a grim reminder of your own mortality, a silent accusation that haunts your waking hours and invades your sleep. The bonds you forge in shared suffering are fragile, easily severed by the brutal realities of combat, leaving you with a profound sense of isolation amidst the chaos. The death of comrades is not merely a loss, but a brutal reminder of the fragility of a soldier's life, where life and death are separated by a mere instant. Death is not a distant concept. It is an ever-present companion, constantly lurking and whispering a brutal reminder of the fragility of a soldier's life. You know it will claim you eventually. From the moment you were dragged from your village, you knew that death was inevitable. It could come from an enemy spear, from disease, from starvation, or from a sudden accident. It is a harsh reality that you must confront every single day. You are taught that dying in battle is glorious a sacrifice for the pharaoh and the gods. But for you, it is not glory, but the end of all suffering. You accept it as an unchangeable fate. The consequence of death is abandonment. If you fall on the battlefield, your body will be left behind, unburied, unmourned. Your soul may wander aimlessly, unable to enter the field of reeds of Osiris. This prospect is more terrifying than death itself. You see other soldiers grappling with this same fear. They whisper prayers, clutching small amulets, hoping they will protect them from eternal wandering. This fear becomes a psychological burden. You constantly wonder, will I be the next, will I fall, without knowing it. Despair slowly creeps into your mind as you realize that all hope for a better future has vanished. You no longer dream of returning home, no longer yearn to reunite with your family. All you want is a quick, painless death, a final release from all torment. That is the only solace you can find in this brutal world. Your determination to survive battles against a quiet longing for the oblivion that might end the ceaseless pain. The physical and emotional exhaustion of anticipating death becomes as draining as the combat itself, leaving you perpetually on edge, every moment of peace fleeting. The fear of death transforms every waking moment into torment, a constant struggle between the desire to live and the longing for release from all suffering. The battlefield is not merely an open field, but a deadly labyrinth where the terrain constantly shifts, transforming into another formidable enemy that exploits your every weakness. You march through endless undulating sand dunes, where every step sinks deep and drains your strength. Then, abruptly, the landscape changes to jagged rocky hills, sharp as knife blades, tearing at your bare feet and leaving them blistered and bleeding. At other times, you find yourself navigating narrow, winding valleys where sunlight barely penetrates, and the shadows cling, bringing a chilling, cold dampness and the pervasive fear of hidden enemies. For the enemy, these terrains become a formidable advantage. Nomadic tribes accustomed to the desert or fierce mountain warriors skilled in their native lands can vanish into the landscape like ghosts ambushing you from unseen positions. They turn the terrain itself into a weapon, transforming seemingly innocuous paths into deadly traps. Moving through unfamiliar territory constantly leaves you disoriented. You don't know what lies ahead, nor what dangers might lurk behind. The relentless fatigue and lack of sleep exacerbate the problem, making you prone to mistakes, to missed signs, to fatal missteps. The risk of getting separated from your unit, of becoming isolated in the vast wilderness, is a constant dread. You see other soldiers struggling just as you are, their faces drawn with exhaustion, their eyes vacant and weary, yet no one dares to stop. You feel utterly insignificant, helpless before the immense power of nature, before the traps it so cunningly conceals. The desert and the mountains show no mercy to your life or death. They simply exist, and you must adapt to survive within their cruel embrace. Every mile traversed over unpredictable terrain is a grim reminder of a soldier's fragile existence, where you face not only human foes but also the relentless destructive forces of the environment itself. In a world accustomed to grand, organized battles, you are thrust into a different kind of war, where the enemy doesn't face you directly, but strikes from the shadows like spectral figures on the desert wind. Your enemies, often nomadic tribes or cunning local rebels, rarely engage the mighty Egyptian army in direct confrontation. Instead, they employ guerrilla tactics, launching sudden, unexpected attacks from all directions, then vanishing back into the desert or mountains as quickly as they appeared. You never know when an arrow might pierce the air from behind a sparse bush, or when a band of warriors might suddenly emerge from behind a sand dune. Surprise is their deadliest weapon, and it forces you to live in a state of perpetual, agonizing fear. The large, heavily armed formations of the Egyptian army are rendered useless against these swift, elusive hit-and-run attacks. You cannot pursue them effectively. You cannot pinpoint their location, and each time they strike, you feel utterly helpless. The psychological toll is immense. The constant gnawing fear, the perpetual tension, drains your strength faster than any physical exertion. You never feel truly safe, not even when resting in camp. Every strange sound, every faint shadow in the darkness, makes you startle your hand instinctively, gripping your weapon. The endless pursuit of these elusive enemies is a monumental waste of your strength and morale. They are intimately familiar with the terrain, they move faster, and they know how to disappear without a trace. You see other soldiers, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollow, gradually succumbing to the mental strain of this relentless, unseen threat. Guerrilla warfare transforms every moment of existence into torment, forcing you to live with unceasing fear, and where the enemy remains invisible, never confronting you directly. Beyond spears and arrows, the enemy sows death with hidden traps beneath the dust, concealed within dry bushes, silently waiting to ensnare unsuspecting footsteps and claim lives with excruciating agony. Your marching path is not only rough with stones and dust, but also riddled with deadly traps, cunningly set by the enemy. Pitfalls are meticulously camouflaged with branches and dirt, concealing sharpened wooden stakes, often tipped with venom. You witness the soldier ahead of you suddenly disappear with a horrific scream that pierces the air, only to be swallowed by a chilling silence. When the others rush forward, they find only a deep pit, the soldier's body impaled by the stakes below, blood soaking the dry earth. Another steps on a tripwire, and a large log studded with sharp spikes swings out from behind a bush, striking him down instantly. These traps are brutal and incredibly effective, not only killing but also sowing pervasive fear among the ranks. You are constantly vigilant, each step taken with extreme caution, desperately scanning for the slightest sign of danger. The dread of falling into a trap yourself is a constant torment. You know that death can come from anywhere at any moment without warning. Witnessing comrades fall into these traps, unable to help them, is another form of torment. You see their desperate struggles, their agony, but you are forced to continue the march, leaving them behind. These traps teach you a grim lesson. Life is fragile, and death can come from the simplest, most unexpected things, from dangers you never even anticipated. Deadly traps turn every mile into a game of life and death, where you constantly battle fear and helplessness, simultaneously learning to accept death as an inescapable part of the journey. When the trumpets blast for the charge, and the two armies finally collide, all discipline, all formation shatters. You are plunged into a horrifying vortex of chaos where primal survival instinct is the only law. There is no safe distance, no protective shield wall. You face the enemy directly, often mere inches apart. The deafening clang of metal, the guttural roars, the desperate screams of the wounded all combine into a horrific cacophony that tears at your ears. Your eyes are blurred by dust, sweat, and blood. You can barely see anything, only indistinct shadows clashing, thrusting, hacking, punching. The coppery scent of fresh blood fills your nostrils, mingling with the acrid smell of sweat, dry earth, and rotting flesh. You lose all sense of space and time. Everything becomes an unending whirlwind of violence. You thrust your spear, pull it back, and thrust again. You parry with your shield, dodge, and parry once more. Your body moves automatically, driven by pure survival instinct, devoid of conscious thought. You don't know how many you've killed, how many blows you've parried. You no longer feel fear, only a profound emptiness and a strange, chilling detachment. You see the soldier next to you fall, but you cannot stop to help him. You must keep fighting, or you will be the next to fall. Gruesome sights relentlessly assault your vision. A soldier decapitated, his entrails spilling onto the ground, another impaled by a spear, his body convulsing in agony. You look at them with empty eyes, no longer feeling fear or disgust. You know that if you hesitate for even a second, you will be the next to collapse. In this chaos, you have only one goal: to survive. All morality, all humanity are pushed aside. You fight with the most primal instinct, the instinct of an animal cornered and fighting for its life. Close quarters combat is the ultimate brutality of war, where all human values are stripped away and survival is ensured only by primal instinct and the ability to kill without hesitation. In the brutal chaos of battle, there are moments when you face the enemy directly, their eyes locking with yours, and in that instant you realize that one of you will not remain standing. You see the enemy's face, perhaps a young face wide with terror, or an older face hardened by hatred. Your eyes lock, and in that moment, everything else vanishes, leaving only the stark reality of life and death. You hear a guttural growl escaping your own throat, a primal sound of raw survival instinct. You thrust your spear, feeling the resistance of their flesh. Or you parry a blow from their axe, feeling the impact reverberate through your shield. Blood splatters hot and sticky on your face. You fall, or they fall. Death is inevitable, a grim truth you confront dozens of times in a single battle. Gradually, you no longer feel fear. Fear dissipates, replaced by a chilling indifference. You no longer see the enemy as a person, but as a target, an obstacle that must be eliminated for your survival. Your mind grows cold, focusing solely on the task at hand, oblivious to consequences or morality. You learn to accept the brutality of war, to accept that killing is an essential part of a soldier's life. And deep down, you know that you too have become a part of that brutality, the constant presence of death. The intimate violence reshapes your perception of reality. You no longer flinch at the sight of a dying man, no longer recoil from the stench of spilled blood. Your senses adapt, your emotions numb, as if your soul has built a protective shell around itself. This isn't just about winning a fight, it's about enduring the ceaseless assault on your humanity, a battle fought with every swing of your weapon, every desperate breath. These direct confrontations with death transform you into an emotionless killer, a haunted soul living with the specters of the fallen, forever torn between humanity and primal survival. In the military camp, even a small cut, a simple scratch can transform into a deadly curse, leading to ceaseless pain and ultimately to a grim, inevitable death. You might get a thorn from a dry bush pricking your foot, a sharp stone cutting your hand during the march, or an insect bite that breaks the skin. These injuries in a normal life would be minor inconveniences. But here, in the unsanitary conditions of the military camp, they become severe threats. Dust, sweat, and bacteria easily infiltrate open wounds, leading to rapid infection. The wound swells, oozes pus, becomes hot to the touch, and sometimes develops into horrific festering ulcers. You have no antibiotics, no clean bandages. The Army's healers can only apply a few wild leaves or some cool mud to the wound, hoping for a miraculous recovery. But often, the infection only worsens, bringing high fever, delirium, and agonizing pain. You see other soldiers battling similar infected wounds. One man's entire arm swells to a grotesque size. He moans in agony, but no one can truly help him. Eventually, he collapses from the fever and exhaustion. You know that death can stem from the simplest causes, here things that in the modern world would be easily cured. Every wound is a brutal reminder of your body's fragility and humanity's helplessness against disease. The constant irritation, the throbbing ache, the ever-present threat of a small cut, turning deadly. These become as much a part of your daily reality as hunger and thirst. Even during brief moments of rest, the pain lingers, a silent companion gnawing at your resolve. You try to ignore it, to push it deep down, but it's always there, a ticking clock counting down to a potential demise that no enemy spear could deliver. Infection from minor wounds transforms your life into an unending torment where death constantly lurks, waiting to snatch your life from the most seemingly innocuous causes. When fever strikes, it's not merely a rise in temperature, but an invisible fire that burns your body from within, reducing you to a delirious shadow, while infection relentlessly gnaws at your open wounds, bringing the foul stench of decay. As the fever sets in, you feel an uncontrollable shivering despite the oppressive heat of the desert. Your head throbs relentlessly, your body aches, and you struggle to remain conscious. You become delirious, strange images flickering through your mind, disembodied voices echoing in your ears, making it impossible to distinguish reality from hallucination. Your wounds, whether old or new, swell grotesquely, ooze pus, and emit a putrid smell. They become deep, festering ulcers eating away at your flesh with agonizing slowness. There are no antipyretics, no antibiotics. The Army's healers can only attempt crude methods, applying cold mud or offering bitter herbal concoctions, but these rarely provide relief. You witness other soldiers convulsing with high fevers and rampant infections. Some try to rise for duty only to stumble and collapse. Their eyes become vacant, their faces pale and drawn as they gradually succumb. Death is a common outcome. You see the corpses of soldiers abandoned after each wave of fever, their bodies emaciated, contorted by the final agony of disease. The pervasive stench of death hangs heavy in the air, a cloying, sweet, sickly perfume that promises the same grim fate for you. You feel your strength slowly draining away, your will dissolving into the darkness. This isn't just physical pain. It's a relentless, insidious assault on your very being, a gradual descent into the terrifying embrace of oblivion. Fever and infection transform your life into a ceaseless agony, where death is an inevitable outcome, a grim release from unending torment. Under the harsh regime of meager rations and ceaseless labor, marching and fighting, your body gradually succumbs to exhaustion, transforming into a gaunt shadow. Nothing but bone and withered skin. Your muscles, once hardened by years of farming, now waste away, leaving prominent bones visible beneath your dry, leathery skin. Every movement sends an agonizing jolt through your body, feeling as if your bones are grinding against each other. A relentless hunger gnaws at your stomach, an emptiness that is never truly filled. Your meager rations simply cannot provide enough energy to sustain you. You feel weak, utterly devoid of strength, struggling with even the simplest tasks. Lifting a small stone or wielding your spear becomes an immense effort. You pant, your heart races with minimal exertion. Your ability to fight is severely compromised. You are no longer nimble enough to dodge enemy blows, nor strong enough to deliver a fatal thrust. You become an easier target on the battlefield. This exhaustion isn't just physical. It deeply permeates your spirit. You feel profoundly weary, stripped of all motivation. All you crave is to lie down and never rise again. Your vitality slowly drains from you. You see other soldiers in the same state, their eyes vacant, their movements sluggish. They too are slowly losing their life force, becoming walking corpses. This physical decline seems irreversible. Even if you were to receive a decent meal, your body would require an immense amount of time to recover, if at all. You know that you are gradually losing strength, becoming an increasingly vulnerable target on the battlefield. Body exhaustion is a brutal reminder of the limits of human endurance and the devastating toll of war on those forced to sacrifice their bodies to the very last ounce of strength. After long months of brutal training and endless battles, your body carries not only fresh wounds but also a grim tapestry of old injuries, a landscape of ceaseless dull aches that never truly subside. Your shoulders click and grind every time you raise your spear. Your back aches relentlessly whenever you bend down. Your feet throb constantly, especially at night, when you try to find a moment of sleep. Old scars from previous cuts, poorly healed broken bones, all become persistent sources of torment. There's no effective pain relief, no physical therapy. The Army's healers simply tell you that such pain is normal for a soldier, a sign of your endurance. You learn to live with the pain, to ignore it, for if you focus on it, you would be unable to do anything. Every movement is an agony, a constant struggle. Your mobility is severely affected. You are no longer as agile as before, unable to dodge blows or wield your shield effectively. Your quality of life has plummeted. Even simple acts like sitting down, standing up, or putting on your coarse kilt become difficult and painful. You observe older soldiers, their bodies twisted and marked by similar old injuries, grim proof of what awaits you if you survive long enough. You accept the pain as an intrinsic part of your existence, a brutal testament to what you have endured. It is the hallmark of a soldier, a constant physical reminder of the battles fought and the toll exacted. This isn't just discomfort, it's a permanent state of being a ceaseless, gnawing presence that defines your every waking moment and invades your restless sleep. You carry it with you, a silent burden, a constant companion that reminds you of every scar, every broken bone, every moment of agony you have suffered in service. Chronic pain from old injuries transforms your body into a prison of torment, where every movement is agony and where release only comes with death. After long, grueling months of living with wounds, illness, and constant exhaustion, you gradually learn to accept pain, not as a punishment, but as an inseparable part of your very existence. Initially, every ache, every cut, every bruise was a torment, a cruel reminder of your vulnerability. But then, you slowly learn to ignore them. You no longer moan or complain. Your emotions become calloused, a protective shell forming around your raw spirit. You look at the festering sores on your skin, the dark bruises on your body with empty eyes. Pain transforms into a familiar companion, always present, but no longer possessing the power to make you collapse. It becomes the indelible mark of a soldier, a stark proof that you have survived unthinkable horrors. You observe other soldiers adopting the same attitude. They don't speak of their pain. They simply endure in silence, for it is the only way to exist in the army. This stoicism is not bravery in the traditional sense, but a hardened resilience, an unbreakable stubbornness. Your mind slowly changes. You no longer perceive life as you once did. Everything becomes starker, more primitive. Survival is the sole objective. You no longer fear death, for you realize it might be a release from all suffering. You accept your fate, accepting that your life will forever be intertwined with pain and sacrifice. This profound acceptance is a desperate coping mechanism, allowing you to function in a world where suffering is the norm. The line between endurance and utter numbness blurs as your body and mind adapt to a reality defined by ceaseless torment. You are no longer fighting pain. You are living with it, a permanent resident in the landscape of your being. This silent pact with suffering becomes your strength, a grim, unbreakable resolve that keeps you moving forward one agonizing step at a time until your body finally gives out. Accepting pain as part of life is a profound internal transformation, molding you into a warrior impervious to physical torment, where resilience is forged from relentless suffering. In every battle, there is no glory, no nobility, only the rawest, most primal brutality of humanity, a horrifying carnage that distinguishes neither friend nor foe, old nor young. When the two armies collide, the battlefield transforms into a massive slaughterhouse. The horrific screams of the wounded, the desperate moans of the dying, the relentless clang of metal on metal, the sickening crunch of bone breaking, all merge into an infernal symphony that tears at your ears. Your eyes are blurred by dust sweat and blood. You can't clearly see anything, only indistinct shadows clashing, thrusting, hacking, punching. The coppery scent of fresh blood fills your nostrils, mingling with the acrid smell of sweat, dry earth, and the stench of death. There is no humanity. Both sides fight with ultimate brutality, killing mercilessly. You see soldiers dismembered, their entrails spilling out, their bodies crushed under chariot wheels. You look at them with empty eyes, no longer feeling fear or disgust. Your mind is numb, focusing solely on survival. You know that if you hesitate for even a second, you will be the next to fall. A profound sense of helplessness washes over you as you witness these horrific scenes, yet you cannot do anything to stop them. You are just a small part of this vortex of violence, a mindless tool caught in the fury of war. The sheer scale of destruction, the overwhelming loss of human life, strips away any illusion of purpose or honor. You are a killer, a survivor, a witness to unspeakable horrors, and a part of you dies with every man who falls. The battlefield isn't just where bodies are broken. It's where souls are shattered, leaving behind a hollow emptiness that no amount of victory can ever fill. You are a component in a grinding machine, and your only purpose is to continue moving, to continue striking, until you yourself are broken. Witnessing the carnage transforms you into a person haunted ceaselessly, where humanity is eroded and the brutality of war is etched into your soul forever. On the battlefield, death holds no dignity. It is a sudden, brutal disappearance, without a single farewell, without even a grave marker. You see soldiers fall beside you. They are not pulled back, not given a proper burial. Their bodies are left there, exposed in the desert under the scorching sun by day and the biting cold by night. They will become food for vultures and jackals, their flesh consumed, their bones scattered, eventually returning to dust. There are no funeral rites, no prayers. Their names are not spoken, their stories not told. They are merely numbers in the army's ledger, bodies hastily buried in shallow pits or left for nature to claim. Oblivion envelops them as if they never existed. Witnessing this scene, the fear of an anonymous death haunts you. You know that you too could fall at any moment, and your fate would be the same. No one will remember you. No one will know how you fought and died. This fear is more terrifying than physical pain. It gnaws at your spirit, transforming you into a listless shadow fighting in despair. The promise of an afterlife, the field of reeds, feels like a cruel mockery when you know your body will be left to rot, your soul perhaps condemned to wander eternally. Every fallen comrade is a chilling premonition, a vivid image of your own likely end. You observe the indifferent faces of the surviving soldiers as they move past the dead, learning to internalize that same cold detachment, understanding that emotion is a luxury no one can afford. The brutal efficiency of this process underlines your utter expendability, a stark contrast to the grand murals of pharaohs entering the afterlife. Your life, your struggles, your very existence seems utterly insignificant in the face of this absolute, unceremonious ending. Death without dignity is a curse, transforming the soldier into an anonymous phantom, forever wandering in the oblivion of history and the brutality of war. In war, prisoners are the most unfortunate, their fate often more tragic than death itself, a brutal reminder of humanity's boundless cruelty. You witness captured prisoners. They are tightly bound, mercilessly beaten, dragged across the ground. Their eyes are hollow, filled with fear and utter despair. You know their fate could be torture for information, enslavement, or public execution as a grim warning. Sometimes you face a fallen enemy, his weapon dropped, his body broken. You could kill him or spare him. In that moment, your humanity is tested. But then you remember what you have endured, the comrades who have fallen, and you know there is no room for mercy. You must kill him, for if you don't, you might be deemed weak, or he might become a future threat. Personal morality erodes. You no longer distinguish between right and wrong. Everything revolves around survival. The army shows no mercy to prisoners. They are merely tools, war assets. The brutality of war transforms you into a monster, an emotionless killer. You accept this, for it is the only way to survive this hell. The screams of the tortured echo in your mind long after the sound has faded. The vacant stares of those condemned to slavery haunt your brief moments of rest. You understand that this is the grim calculus of war: sacrifice, humiliation, dehumanization for the sake of survival. The thin line between soldier and monster blurs with each act of violence, leaving you a hollow shell, capable of horrors you once couldn't imagine. Your conscience, if it still exists, becomes a muted whisper against the deafening roar of survival instinct. You carry the weight of these choices, a burden that will never leave you, even if you escape the battlefield. The fate of prisoners is a stain on the history of war, a brutal reminder of the loss of humanity, and the agonizing choice between death and brutality for survival. When the ranks shatter and battle descends into close-quarters melee, you are plunged into a horrifying maelstrom of blood screams and raw primal survival instinct. There is no safe distance, no protective formation. You face the enemy directly, sometimes mere inches apart. The deafening clang of metal, the guttural roars, the desperate cries of the wounded, all tear at your ears. Your bronze spear, once your primary weapon, becomes too long and cumbersome. You discard it, drawing your dull dagger or a sharpened stone axe, fighting with everything you have. Fists, feet, even teeth are used in a desperate struggle to survive. You feel yourself crushed amidst falling bodies, shoved, trampled. The coppery stench of fresh blood fills your nostrils, mingling with the acrid smell of sweat and the pervasive odor of death. Your eyes are blurred by blood and dust. You can barely see anything, only indistinct shadows, weapons swinging, desperate faces. You move automatically, driven by pure instinct. You don't know how many you've killed, how many blows you've parried. You no longer feel fear, only a profound emptiness and a chilling detachment. You see the soldier next to you fall, but you cannot stop to help him. You must keep fighting, or you will be the next to fall. Gruesome sights relentlessly assault your vision. A soldier dismembered, his entrails spilling onto the ground, another impaled by a spear, his body convulsing in agony. You look at them with empty eyes, no longer feeling fear or disgust. You know that if you hesitate for even a second, you will be the next to collapse. In this chaos, you have only one goal: to survive. All morality, all humanity are pushed aside. You fight with the most primal instinct, the instinct of an animal cornered and fighting for its life. Close-quarters combat is the ultimate brutality of war, where all human values are stripped away and survival is ensured only by primal instinct and the capacity for merciless killing. Even when your body miraculously survives each battle, a part of your soul dies, slowly eroded by ceaseless brutality, leaving behind an unfillable void within you. After each battle, after each horrific scene, you feel a profound exhaustion, not physical fatigue, but the utter weariness of your spirit. You no longer feel sadness, joy, or even fear. All emotions become calloused, a protective mechanism, allowing you to continue existing. The images of bloodshed, the screams, the contorted faces of the dead, relentlessly replay in your mind, haunting you even in sleep. Nightmares are an inevitable companion, dragging you back to the battlefield, forcing you to relive the most terrifying moments. You wake in a cold panic, drenched in sweat, your heart pounding, only to quickly fall back into indifference. Life seems meaningless. You no longer fight for glory, for the pharaoh, or for your family. You fight only to survive one more day, only to begin another day filled with pain and despair. A pervasive emptiness engulfs you, like a black hole swallowing everything. You are no longer the man who left the village. You are a shadow, a soul, permanently wounded, trapped in horrifying memories. Your interactions with others become shallow, devoid of genuine connection. You recognize the same vacant stares in the eyes of your comrades, a silent testament to the shared mental scars you all carry. The line between reality and the nightmarish visions blurs, leaving you perpetually adrift in a hazy, surreal landscape of trauma. This isn't just emotional distress. It's a profound unraveling of your very being, a slow, agonizing descent into a state where survival is the only remaining purpose, and true peace feels like an impossible dream. Mental erosion is the heaviest consequence of war, transforming you into a soulless shadow, a living being haunted by ceaseless nightmares and an unfillable void in your very core. The hunger is not a temporary discomfort. It is an invisible monster, constantly lurking, clawing at your stomach, gnawing away at every ounce of your strength and sanity with every mile of the march. Each day you wake with a hollow ache in your stomach, a relentless gnawing hunger that never truly subsides. Your meager rations are insufficient to fill the void, and within hours of eating, the hunger returns even more fiercely. You feel weak, dizzy, sometimes even losing your balance. Your eyes are dull, and you struggle to focus on anything beyond the desperate craving for food. The obsession with food consumes you. You dream of lavish feasts of freshly baked bread, of succulent roasted meat. But these are mere illusions. The reality is that you must constantly battle hunger. The relentless pangs erode your dignity. You witness other soldiers scrambling for a fallen crumb of bread, their eyes filled with desperation and primal instinct. You feel yourself descending to the same level, ready to do anything for a morsel of food. Morality and conscience are set aside. The only goal is to fill your empty stomach. Despair slowly creeps into your mind. You don't know when you will eat a satisfying meal, when this hunger will ever end. You lose control of your emotions, becoming irritable and short-tempered. The constant gnawing emptiness is a physical and psychological torment, transforming you into a listless being consumed by the desire for food, willing to do anything to survive. The memory of the simple meals from your village, now a distant luxury, only amplifies the torment. Every waking moment is a struggle against the relentless emptiness, a battle you know you are slowly but surely losing. Your body begins to consume itself, drawing on every last reserve of fat and muscle, leaving you gaunt and hollow, a mere shadow of your former self. You become hyper-aware of every ache, every tremor, every sign of your body's slow disintegration, knowing that hunger is an unseen enemy more relentless than any human foe. This isn't just discomfort. It's a profound existential emptiness, a constant gnawing reminder of your fragility, of how easily life can be reduced to a desperate animalistic struggle. The hunger not only torments your body but also consumes your spirit, transforming you into a listless being yearning only for food, willing to do anything to survive. In a world where every bite of food is as precious as gold, sharing your meager rations is an internal struggle, a moral test between kindness and the raw instinct for survival. Your daily ration is barely enough to sustain you, a thin thread connecting you to life. But sometimes you see another soldier, a friend, or even a stranger struggling with hunger, his face pale and drawn, his eyes vacant. You feel a strange urge, a wrenching conflict between holding on to your portion for your own survival and the compelling need to offer aid. This is an internal battle. One part of you screams to hoard, reminding you that you need every crumb to live. Another whispers to help, knowing it's the right thing to do. A flicker of the humanity you're trying desperately to cling to. In moments of profound weakness, you decide to share a small part of your meager ration. It might be a tiny piece of bread, a few dry grains, or even a last precious sip of water. You see the gratitude in their eyes, a silent acknowledgement that transcends words, and for a fleeting instant, you feel a warmth in your heart, a rare moment of human connection amidst the hell. But immediately afterward, you face even more intense hunger yourself. Your already scant portion is now even smaller. Your body weakens further. You know that sharing might jeopardize your own survival, that it might hasten your own collapse. Yet paradoxically, this act of sharing forges a fragile bond between you and that other soldier. A silent understanding, a fleeting empathy, an unspoken promise that if you help me today, perhaps one day I will help you. This isn't heroism in the grand sense, but a desperate small act of humanity, a resistance against the dehumanizing forces of war. You carry the burden of the increased hunger, but also the unexpected lightness of having performed an act of kindness in a world that rarely allows for it. The memory of their grateful eyes, though quickly overshadowed by your own renewed hunger, serves as a faint ember of hope, a reminder that something other than brutality can still exist, even here. Sharing rations in extreme hardship is an act both noble and painful, a poignant reminder that even in war, humanity can flicker however fragilely. The hunger does not merely cause immediate weakness. It is a slow, relentless process of destruction, gradually draining the life force from your body, leaving you a gaunt shadow of your former self. After weeks, sometimes months of living with chronic malnutrition, your body begins to consume itself. Your muscles, once strong from years of farming, now waste away, leaving your bones starkly prominent beneath your dry, withered skin. You are perpetually anemic, your skin pale and sallow. You constantly feel dizzy and lightheaded, often losing your balance without warning. Your immune system is severely weakened, making you susceptible to every passing illness. A common cold can quickly escalate into pneumonia. A minor cut can lead to severe, life-threatening infection. You are constantly exhausted, unable to focus on anything. Your cognitive abilities decline. You struggle to remember commands, to think clearly, and you become prone to making critical mistakes. Your mood is volatile. You become irritable, prone to outbursts of anger, or, conversely, completely listless and apathetic. You observe other soldiers in the same state, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollow, their movements slow and lethargic. They too are slowly losing their vitality, becoming walking corpses. This physical decline appears irreversible. Even if you were to receive adequate food, your body would require immense time to recover, if at all. You know that you are gradually losing strength, becoming an increasingly vulnerable target on the battlefield. The constant internal struggle between your body's desperate need for sustenance and the relentless demands of military life becomes an unbearable weight. You feel your life force slowly being siphoned away, leaving you a mere shell incapable of sustaining yourself, utterly at the mercy of the elements and the enemy. This isn't just weakness. It's a profound systemic collapse, a silent, brutal testament to the destructive power of prolonged starvation. Malnutrition transforms you into an empty shell, a soldier with no strength to fight, and a soul slowly withering in ceaseless pain and profound debilitation. In the relentless grip of hunger, food becomes your greatest obsession, a thought that ceaselessly gnaws at your mind, infiltrating your every waking moment and twisting your very dreams. Whether marching training or desperately trying to snatch a few moments of sleep, your mind is consumed by thoughts of food. You remember the smell of freshly baked bread from your home oven, the aroma of roasted meat, at village festivals the sweet taste of honey. You imagine yourself biting into a soft, warm piece of bread, savoring a succulent piece of fat, feeling your stomach swell with satisfaction. These images are so vivid, so real, that you can almost taste them, feel your salivary glands ache. At night, these dreams of food become even more visceral, more agonizingly real. You find yourself at a lavish banquet surrounded by every imaginable delicacy, and you gorge yourself, feeling your belly grow full and tight. But then you wake, and the cruel reality crashes down. Your stomach is still empty, and the hunger gnaws even more fiercely. Disappointment washes over you, a pain deeper than any physical ache. You want to scream, to lash out, but you must suppress it. This obsession doesn't just torment your body, it erodes your spirit. It transforms food into a symbol of both elusive hope and agonizing loss. It is what you crave most desperately, yet it remains forever just out of reach. You become irritable, easily angered, and struggle to focus on anything else but the desperate need to fill your empty stomach. The line between reality and hallucination blurs as hunger distorts your perceptions. You start to see food in everyday objects. A rock might resemble a loaf of bread. A patch of dry grass might look like a green vegetable. Your waking hours are punctuated by vivid, agonizing cravings, making every task, every interaction, a torturous ordeal. You know this obsession is driving you to the brink of madness, but you are powerless to stop it. The obsession with food transforms your life into an unending torment where delusional dreams of satiety only make the harsh reality even more unbearable. In the military camp, death is ever present, but dying from starvation carries a unique anguish and despair, a slow, brutal decline witnessed firsthand that leaves an indelible mark on your soul. You witness other soldiers, comrades with whom you've shared miseries and fleeting moments of connection, collapse and die from hunger. Their bodies are gaunt, skeletal, their eyes sunken and vacant, reflecting utter despair. They bear no wounds from battle, no visible signs of disease. They simply lose the will to live, their bodies failing them slowly, inexorably. You see them tremble, cough weakly, then gradually slip into an eternal sleep without a final word. A profound sense of helplessness and guilt overwhelms you. You wonder, could I have done something to save them? Should I have shared my own meager rations? But then you remember your own relentless hunger, and you know that if you shared, you might be the next to fall. Gradually, a grim numbness sets in. You no longer weep when a comrade starves to death. You look at them with empty eyes, for that is the only way to protect yourself from overwhelming despair. Death by starvation is a cruel lesson in survival. It teaches you that in the army there is no mercy. Each man is ultimately on his own. Despair spreads through the camp like a contagion. Everyone knows they could be next. Life becomes more fragile than ever, each breath a stolen moment. You see the quiet resignation in their eyes, the slow acceptance of an inevitable, agonizing end. The silence of their passing is louder than any scream, a haunting testament to the utter indifference of the world. This experience strips away any lingering illusions of camaraderie or justice, leaving behind only the stark, brutal reality of survival at any cost. You become accustomed to the sight of skeletal figures, their faces frozen in a mask of suffering, knowing that this is the common destiny for many in this unforgiving landscape. The despair of witnessing comrades starve to death is a profound stain on your soul, a brutal reminder of war's cruelty where hunger can claim lives silently without a sound. In the military camp, the air is thick with foul odors, and every breath seems to carry the seeds of disease, transforming this place into a massive incubator for medical disasters. Life in the crowded makeshift tents where dozens of soldiers breathe the same air and sleep shoulder to shoulder on dirty ground provides an ideal environment for all kinds of diseases to fester and spread. There is no proper sanitation system. Human and animal waste accumulates in and around the camp, creating stagnant puddles and attracting swarms of flies and rodents. Dangerous vectors for illness. Your drinking water often comes from murky wells or directly from the Nile, where thousands of people, animals, and even decaying bodies pollute the water upstream. You know that every sip is a gamble with death. Food, though scarce, is rarely hygienic, often spoiling quickly or becoming contaminated during transport and storage. The lack of understanding about personal hygiene and disease transmission only exacerbates the situation. Soldiers have no soap, no clean water for washing hands. They share cups and blankets, creating perfect conditions for illnesses to spread like wildfire. One soldier coughs, and within days, the entire squad is coughing. One man gets dysentery, and soon the whole camp is affected. Common ailments, like colds, flu, or simple skin sores, can quickly escalate into dangerous complications in these conditions. You live in constant fear of this invisible threat, knowing that you could collapse at any moment without ever being struck by an enemy's spear. The close proximity, the constant stress, and the weakened bodies create a perfect storm where a single sneeze can be a death sentence, and a minor wound can lead to agonizing, fatal infection. The camp is not a place of rest. It is a battleground against unseen forces, a relentless struggle where your body is constantly under siege. You witness the silent despair in the eyes of your comrades, a mirror of your own helplessness as you all await the inevitable, indiscriminate harvest of disease. The seeds of disease are a silent but ruthless enemy, turning the military camp into a deadly trap where you constantly battle against what you cannot see. When plague strikes, it's not just a simple fever, it's an all-out assault on your body, and will bringing horrifying symptoms that push you to the brink of life and death. You witness other soldiers, and then perhaps yourself, begin to suffer from terrifying symptoms. A relentless violent diarrhea dehydrates your body rapidly, sometimes accompanied by blood, turning your stomach into a constantly churning river of fire. High fever makes you shiver uncontrollably, even under the blazing sun, or burn with an intense consuming heat. Your head throbs incessantly, and you descend into delirium, strange images flickering through your mind, disembodied voices echoing in your ears, making it impossible to distinguish reality from hallucination. Vomiting is continuous, draining your last ounces of strength. Your muscles spasm violently, uncontrollable convulsions, racking your body with ceaseless agony. Your skin turns pale and sallow, your eyes become sunken and vacant. You cannot stand, you cannot eat, you cannot do anything. You lie there, moaning weakly on your reed mat, your body contorted in pain, utterly powerless to resist. The healers in the army are helpless, offering only questionable herbs or cold mud poultices, which do little to alleviate the torment. You see other soldiers struggling, just as you are. Their faces distorted by pain, their eyes dull. Some attempt to rise for duty, but collapse after a few steps. Their weak retching and desperate cries fill the air, signaling an inevitable end. The sight of these agonizing deaths, the sound of their final, gasping breaths, becomes etched into your memory, a constant reminder of your own impending fate. You live with the chilling certainty that at any moment these horrifying symptoms could claim you, just as they claimed countless others. This isn't just illness. It's a living nightmare, a slow, torturous descent into oblivion, where every breath is a desperate struggle against the body's utter betrayal. The terrifying symptoms of disease are a cruel torment, turning your body into a battleground of pain, and your will into a fragile thread, about to snap, pushing you closer to an inevitable death. In the military camp, when illness strikes, you realize that all medical knowledge you once knew is useless. The Army's healers are powerless, fumbling hopelessly against the relentless devastation of disease. The healers in the Army are often just older soldiers with a smattering of folk remedies or traditional cures passed down orally. They possess no true medical knowledge, no understanding of the root causes of disease. When you suffer from a high fever, they might apply strange leaves to your body, or use cold mud to try and bring down the temperature, but all efforts are futile. Infected wounds are rinsed with muddy water or covered with foul-smelling herbs, but there are no antibiotics, no effective ways to stop the rampant infection. For diseases like dysentery or malaria, they can only offer bitter herbal teas, or force you to fast, hoping your body will somehow expel the sickness on its own. Superstition and prayer become the primary methods of treatment. They believe illness is caused by angered gods or malevolent spirits, so they will pray, chant incantations, or adorn you with small amulets, desperately hoping for divine mercy. But you know it's mere comfort, a desperate plea in the face of insurmountable odds. You witness soldiers around you dying relentlessly despite all these treatments. Death is a common outcome, a grim reality that no one can alter. Despair slowly creeps into your mind as you realize there is no hope for recovery. You can only lie there awaiting your fate, praying that death comes swiftly to release you from the agony. The lack of effective remedies means every illness is a terrifying gamble. You cling to any small sign of improvement, any brief moment of relief, knowing that true recovery is a rare, almost miraculous event. The cries of those succumbing to illness, the desperate pleas, underscore the utter futility of resistance. This isn't healing. It's a slow, agonizing process of surrender where your body fights a losing battle against forces beyond understanding. The lack of effective treatments transforms disease into a death sentence where you face ceaseless pain and utter helplessness with no escape. When illness strikes, you don't just battle physical pain. You also confront a profound and terrifying loneliness, as your comrades once, shoulder to shoulder with you, now shy away for fear of contagion. The moment you show the first symptoms of illness, a persistent cough, a raging fever, or agonizing stomach cramps, you notice the change in your fellow soldiers' eyes. Their initial sympathy quickly turns to fear and wariness. They begin to keep their distance, no longer approaching you, no longer sharing food or water. You are isolated, pushed to a corner of the tent, or moved far away from the communal areas like a leper. There is no care, no comforting hand on your forehead to soothe the fever, no word of solace. You lie there moaning weakly, feeling utterly abandoned. Even your closest friends dare not come near, only watching you from afar with pity or fear. This isolation is more agonizing than any physical wound. You feel forgotten, discarded from the community, left utterly alone to battle sickness and death. You hear the whispers of other soldiers. They speak of you as if you were already dead, a burden that needs to be removed. Despair engulfs you. You know that you will face death alone with no one by your side, no one to hold your hand in your final moments. The silence of your isolation is broken only by your own labored breathing and the distant sounds of the healthy, a cruel reminder of the life you are losing. You witness similar scenes of abandonment as others fall ill, a grim cycle that reinforces the brutal truth in this place. Survival is individual, and compassion is a luxury. Every shiver, every cough, every desperate gasp is a solitary ordeal endured without comfort or aid as you are slowly consumed by the invisible enemy that has isolated you from all human contact. The loneliness of the sick is a brutal torment, turning death into a solitary journey devoid of human connection, comfort, or dignity. When disease erupts, death is no longer an isolated event. It becomes a mass phenomenon, a brutal reminder of humanity's helplessness against the relentless power of illness. Every morning you wake to find more lifeless bodies lying stiffly on their reed mats. The coughing has ceased. The moaning has stopped. They lie there, eyes wide open, faces contorted in agony. The surviving soldiers, though themselves weakened by sickness and hunger, are forced to drag these corpses out of the tents. There is no time for funeral rites, no time for grieving. The bodies are collected, piled together, then hastily dragged away from the camp with ropes. Shallow mass graves are dug in the sand. The corpses are unceremoniously dumped into these pits, without dignity, without prayer. The stench of death permeates the entire camp, thick and oppressive, seeping into your every breath, every fiber of your being. You learn to live with this foul odor, to ignore it, for that is the only way to avoid going mad. Your mind gradually hardens. You no longer feel intense pain or fear when witnessing these mass deaths. You accept it as an inevitable part of military life. This is our destiny, you tell yourself. You know that you too could be among them at any moment. A profound sense of helplessness washes over you. You can do nothing to stop the relentless march of death. You can only wait and hope that you will not be the next. The sheer scale of the dying, the overwhelming evidence of your collective vulnerability, crushes any lingering sense of individual importance or control. You become a passive observer to a culling, a grim harvest performed by an unseen hand. The silence that follows the cries of the dying is heavier than any noise, a profound stillness filled with unspoken despair, a chilling anticipation of your own inevitable turn. You are merely another body awaiting your place in the anonymous sands. Mass deaths are a horrifying devastation, not only taking lives but also eroding the spirit, transforming you into a living being haunted by death and utter helplessness. In the army, friendship is a fragile spark in the overwhelming darkness, but it's also a sharp knife, twisting in your heart each time a comrade falls, leaving behind an unspoken grief that cannot be soothed. You have witnessed too many deaths, too many losses. The soldiers with whom you've shared meager bread endured sleepless nights and whispered fears. They simply vanish abruptly and brutally. You see a friend pierced through the chest by an enemy spear, his eyes wide with a final, desperate stare before dimming forever. Another collapses from disease, his body convulsing in agony, but you can do nothing to help. The pain of loss is a heavy burden, a ceaseless torment, but you are not allowed to cry, not allowed to show emotion. In the army, tears are a sign of weakness. You must suppress everything, pushing the grief deep down inside. The faces of the fallen relentlessly haunt your mind, tormenting you in dreams, and even when you are awake. Their laughter, the stories they told, the fears they shared, all become silent specters that endlessly pursue you. Gradually, you learn to harden your emotions. You no longer feel intense pain when another comrade falls. You accept it as an inevitable part of the war. That is how you protect yourself from madness. But you know that each time a friend vanishes, a part of your soul also dies, leaving an unfillable void within you. The silence of their absence is louder than any battle cry, a constant reminder of the profound emptiness that now defines your world. You become a walking tomb carrying the unspoken grief of countless losses, your heart a cemetery of forgotten faces. This process of emotional hardening, while crucial for immediate survival, carves deep, permanent scars into your psyche. You are forced to build walls around your heart, not just against the enemy, but against the very humanity that yearns to grieve. The weight of this accumulated sorrow, though unexpressed, presses down on you, shaping your every breath, every thought, every silent moment of despair. You try to remember their names, to hold on to their faces, but even those memories begin to blur, with the sheer volume of the dead a chilling testament to war's relentless erasure of individuality and connection. The loss of friends transforms your life into a solitary ordeal where grief remains unshared and your soul is gradually eroded by invisible scars. Even when the battlefield falls silent, the specter of war ceaselessly haunts you, replaying horrific images in your mind, denying you a single moment of peace. Every time you close your eyes, you find yourself back on the battlefield. The screams of the wounded, the stench of fresh blood, the contorted faces of the dead, all appear vividly sharper than reality itself. Nightmares are an inevitable companion. You see yourself impaled by a spear, collapsing amidst the chaotic crowd, or being left behind, utterly forgotten. You wake in a cold panic, drenched in sweat, your heart pounding. Insomnia becomes chronic. You fear the darkness, fearing what dreams might bring. You try to stay awake, but your body is utterly exhausted, and eventually you sink back into a restless, nightmare-ridden sleep. Your perception of the world shifts. You no longer believe in justice, no longer trust in human kindness. Everything becomes brutal, meaningless. You feel trapped in the past, unable to escape. Even if the war ends and you return home, should you survive, you will never truly be the same person. A part of your soul has died on the battlefield, taking with it parts of your essence. You look at yourself in a muddy puddle, seeing a stranger's face, an empty gaze, and you no longer recognize yourself. You have become someone else, someone shaped by the brutality of war. You accept this, for it is the only way to survive. It is the price of existence. The constant replay of horrors, the relentless fear, drains your mental reserves. You become easily startled, prone to irrational outbursts, or sink into long periods of sullen silence. The vividness of your memories is a torment far worse than any physical wound because you cannot escape them. They are etched onto your very being, a permanent scar on your soul, a ceaseless reminder of the hell you have endured. This isn't just trauma. It's a profound, irreversible transformation, leaving you forever bound to the echoes of combat. The haunting of war transforms your life into a prison of the past where you relentlessly relive horrific moments and where peace is an unattainable dream. In the brutal world of the army, you live amidst hundreds of other soldiers, yet you feel more isolated than ever, a profound loneliness that no one can truly comprehend. You try to talk to other soldiers, but you realize they too carry their own pains and hauntings. No one truly understands what you've experienced, what you've witnessed. You cannot share your horrific nightmares, your feelings of guilt, or your constant fear. Everyone is simply trying to survive, and no one has the time or energy to care for another's inner turmoil. This loneliness gradually consumes you. You feel disconnected from the world, abandoned in a vast sea of people. Despair slowly creeps into your mind. You no longer hope for a better future, no longer believe in anything. Everything becomes meaningless. You lose the ability to connect emotionally with others. You look at them with empty, vacant eyes. You no longer feel sadness when they fall, nor joy when good news arrives. This emotional hardening is a self-protective mechanism, allowing you to cope with the horrors, but it also transforms you into a soulless being. You exist, but you do not truly live. You breathe, but you do not truly feel the air. The unspoken bond of shared misery is not enough to fill the void. You yearn for the comfort of companionship, for a touch, a word of genuine understanding, but it is a luxury that has been stripped from you. This isolation exacerbates the mental toll, pushing you further into yourself until your inner world becomes a desolate, silent landscape. You carry the weight of unshed tears, unvoiced fears, and unspeakable memories, a solitary burden in a crowd of equally tormented souls. The quiet desperation becomes a constant hum beneath your consciousness, a grim soundtrack to your endless struggle for mere existence. Loneliness and despair are the heaviest burdens of a soldier transforming life into a solitary journey, devoid of meaning and bereft of human connection. Under the ceaseless brutality of war, you realize that your very essence is slowly transforming. From a gentle farmer, you are becoming a cold, emotionless phantom, tempered by blood and unending pain. Your innocence and gentle nature, once defining characteristics, have long vanished. Now you are a soldier, one who has witnessed and committed horrific acts. You become hardened, cold, and ruthless. The smile disappears from your face, replaced by a grim, vigilant expression that is perpetually alert to danger. You no longer express emotions easily. Tears no longer fall. Laughter no longer rings true. You learn to suppress everything, for in the army, emotion is a weakness. This change is permanent, irreversible. You know that even if the war ends and you return home, should you survive, you will never be the same person. A part of your soul has died on the battlefield, taking with it the best parts of you. You look at your reflection in a muddy puddle, seeing a stranger's face, a vacant gaze, and you no longer recognize yourself. You have become someone else, someone shaped entirely by the brutality of war. You accept this, for it is the only way to survive. It is the grim price of survival. The constant violence, the relentless suffering forces this metamorphosis upon you. You adapt, not by choice, but by necessity, shedding aspects of your former self that would be liabilities here. Compassion becomes dangerous empathy, a weakness, and mercy, an unknown concept. You function with a chilling efficiency, your actions driven by instinct and cold calculation rather than human feeling. The warmth and gentleness that once defined you have been burned away, leaving behind a hardened core. This new self, while capable of enduring unthinkable horrors, is also a profound loss, a silent tragedy played out within your own soul. You are a walking testament to the dehumanizing power of conflict, a stark embodiment of war's capacity to reshape the very essence of a man. This transformation of character is a permanent scar on your soul, turning you into a soulless phantom, a living being haunted by the past forever, unable to find true peace. On the battlefield, you don't merely fight for survival. You are forced to make split-second life-or-death decisions, cruel choices that you will carry with you for the rest of your days. In the chaos of battle, you must make instantaneous decisions to thrust or parry to attack, or retreat to save a comrade, or abandon them to preserve your own life. There is no time to think, no room for moral deliberation. Everything must happen by instinct. You see a wounded comrade crying for help, but you must leave him behind to continue fighting. Or you must kill a fallen enemy, even if he is begging for mercy, because you cannot risk him rising again or being deemed weak by your officers. The moral weight of killing weighs heavily on you. Although you have become emotionally hardened, in brief moments of quiet, the faces of those you have killed reappear in your mind, ceaselessly haunting you. Past decisions become a psychological burden. You ask yourself, did I make the right choice? Was there another way? But then, you know, there was no other option. The pressure of these life-or-death decisions affects your judgment. You become tense, prone to making mistakes, and sometimes act blindly. These moments of agonizing choice are not isolated incidents. They are a constant feature of your existence, shaping your reactions and your very perception of reality. The quick calculation of risk versus reward, the brutal assessment of who lives and who dies, becomes an ingrained part of your thinking, a dark skill honed by endless necessity. You carry the unseen wounds of these decisions, burdens that are heavier than any physical armor, pressing down on your soul, shaping the silent landscape of your inner world. Even when the immediate danger passes, the echoes of those choices linger, a ceaseless whisper of what might have been or what had to be done. The burden of life-or-death decisions transforms you into a person haunted ceaselessly, where every choice carries a brutal cost, and where right and wrong lose all meaning. Even on the battlefield, or in the squalid military camps, you cannot escape the overwhelming shadow of the pharaoh's authority. A living God who holds your very life in his palm, his will the ultimate law. To you and every Egyptian, the pharaoh is not merely a king. He is the living embodiment of the god Horus, son of Ra, a divine being walking on earth. Every command he issues is the will of the gods, unquestionable and absolute. You are taught to revere him, to fear him, and to obey him unconditionally. The colossal statues of the pharaoh, his images painted on temple walls, his name chanted in rituals, the constant praise of his boundless power. All serve as a relentless reminder of his absolute authority. You know that any disobedience, any grumbling, even a fleeting thought of defiance can be considered blasphemy and punished with merciless death. You see the same fear in the eyes of other soldiers. They dare not speak loudly, dare not show any sign of discontent. All are mere shadows obeying blindly. You are just a tool in the pharaoh's hand, a number in his ledger, an anonymous soldier fighting for his glory, not for yourself. You don't fully understand his policies, nor the true reasons behind the wars. You only know to obey, for it is the only way to survive in a world where the pharaoh dictates everything. His divine right is woven into the very fabric of society, from the grandest temples to the humblest huts. You are but a breath, a fleeting moment, in the eternal tapestry of his reign. The thought of displeasing him, even by accident, sends a cold shiver down your spine, for his wrath is believed to be the wrath of the gods themselves, capable of bringing plague, famine, or utter destruction. You are nothing, he is everything. This absolute power doesn't just govern your actions. It infiltrates your thoughts, shaping your very perception of reality. You accept your insignificance, for it is the only path to a semblance of peace, a fragile truce with an overwhelming, terrifying force. The absolute power of the pharaoh transforms your life into unconditional submission, where the will of a living God dictates every moment of your existence. Within the Egyptian army, law is not meant to protect you. It is designed to control you, a harsh, unyielding, and merciless system built to crush any hint of defiance. Every action you take from sunrise to sunset, and even in the darkness of night, is governed by strict regulations. A clumsy move during training, a slight grumble under your breath, a failure to maintain formation, all can be considered offenses and lead to immediate punishment. Punishments often involve brutal lashings publicly administered before the entire squad, serving as a grim warning to others. You witness the raw welts on your comrades' backs, see their blood, and hear their weak moans. There is no right to defend yourself, no justice. The officer's word is law, and you must accept it. If you are accused, even falsely, proving your innocence is almost impossible. You could be deprived of rations, forced into even more arduous tasks, or worse, summarily executed. The fear of punishment is a powerful weapon, forcing you to remain constantly vigilant to obey every command, absolutely without a hint of doubt or hesitation. You learn to make yourself invisible, to blend into the crowd, revealing no personal thoughts or individuality. Personal freedom is completely abolished. You are not allowed to have any opinions or desires other than to obey orders. Human dignity is trampled, and you gradually learn to accept it. Every minute of your day is meticulously structured, every movement scrutinized. The simple act of sitting down, without permission, or speaking out of turn, can escalate into a severe disciplinary action. You live under a perpetual cloud of anxiety, knowing that arbitrary justice can strike at any moment, and your fate rests solely on the whim of your superiors. The uniform you wear, the weapons you carry, the very air you breathe, all belong to the army, and by extension, to the pharaoh, leaving you utterly devoid of personal agency. This relentless control isn't just about order. It's about breaking your spirit and remolding you into a compliant, unthinking tool whose only purpose is to execute commands without question. The weight of this iron discipline presses down on you, shaping your posture, your gaze, even your thoughts, until resistance becomes an alien concept and submission feels like the only natural state of being. Military law transforms you into a mindless tool where all personal freedom is crushed and obedience is the sole path to survival in this brutal world. In the Egyptian army, the shadow of punishment constantly looms over you, and the slightest mistake can lead to brutal penalties, even death itself, a terrifying reality that chills you to the bone. You witness horrific punishments daily. Soldiers are lashed with whips until their backs are raw and bleeding, their skin torn apart. The crack of the whip, their weak moans echo through the camp, a chilling reminder that no one can escape punishment. Others are forced into even more grueling labor, deprived of rations or publicly humiliated. There is no right to defend yourself or appeal the verdict. The officer's word is law, and you must accept it. You see soldiers hanged or impaled publicly, their bodies convulsing in agony before the entire squad. These punishments are not just to discipline individuals, but to deter others, to instill absolute fear and obedience in everyone. The fear of punishment constantly haunts your mind. You constantly wonder, will I be next? Have I made a mistake without realizing it? This fear becomes a psychological burden, leaving you perpetually tense, unable to relax. You see it in the eyes of your comrades, the same fear, the same silent desperation. You accept death as a form of release. Sometimes you even long for it to come swiftly to end all suffering. The mental anguish of anticipating punishment often outweighs the physical torment itself. You become hypervigilant, constantly scrutinizing your own actions and words, fearful of drawing any unwanted attention from your superiors. This constant anxiety erodes your ability to think clearly, to find moments of peace, or to remember the person you once were. You are trapped in a cycle of fear and obedience where the primary motivation for every action is to avoid the wrath of those in power. The image of a public execution, though horrifying, becomes a grim, accepted part of your reality, a stark reminder of the ultimate consequence for defiance or perceived failure. The fear of punishment and execution transforms your life into a living hell, where you endlessly battle dread and despair, and every mistake comes with a brutal price. In the army, religion isn't merely a personal belief. It's a potent tool of control, transforming your every action into absolute submission before the will of the pharaoh and the gods. Officers and military priests constantly remind you that the pharaoh is the living embodiment of the god Horus, and his every command is divine will. War is not a conflict between men, but a sacred struggle between deities where you are merely a tool to execute the will of the pharaoh and the Egyptian gods. Religious rituals are performed frequently within the camp. Before each battle, priests pray, offer sacrifices to the gods, and bless weapons and soldiers. You participate in these rituals not just out of faith, but out of fear. You believe that if you fail to perform the rituals correctly, the gods will become enraged and abandon you on the battlefield. Gods like Ra, Horus, and Seth are constantly invoked. The fear of divine wrath is a heavy psychological burden. You constantly worry that you might have done something wrong, offended a god. You see other soldiers consumed by this same fear. They whisper prayers, carry small amulets, hoping these will protect them from divine punishment. Sometimes a soldier prays ceaselessly, yet still falls on the battlefield. Despair sets in as you realize that prayers are not always answered. This manipulation ensures absolute obedience. You are taught that everything that happens is destiny, that your suffering, your death is all preordained. This perspective makes it easier to accept hardship, as you believe nothing can change your fate. This psychological control leaves you feeling stripped of free will. Every thought, every action is dictated by your belief in the gods and the pharaoh. You cannot resist, for that would be resisting the will of the divine. Religion transforms you into a manipulated tool where faith becomes a shackles and free will is crushed under the absolute power of the pharaoh and the gods. In the Egyptian army, discrimination isn't just about rank. It's a blatant disregard for your very life, a common soldier viewed as nothing more than a disposable tool rather than a human being. You belong to the lowest ranks of the army, the infantry, easily replaceable pawns. High-ranking officers and nobles live in more luxurious tents, enjoy better food, and have ample access to clean water. They travel by horse or chariot while you march for dozens of miles under the scorching sun. They never truly face the dangers of the battlefield. They merely issue commands and you must obey. Your life holds no value to them. You are just a number in the formation, a disposable sacrifice to protect those of higher status. You see them laughing, feasting while you struggle with hunger and exhaustion. This blatant discrimination fills you with resentment, but you cannot show it. You must suppress all emotions, for any sign of defiance will lead to punishment. A profound sense of abandonment and despair washes over you. You know that no one cares about you. No one will remember you if you fall. You are merely a tool, a pawn in the pharaoh's war game. This deep-seated inequality, this inherent disregard for the lives of common soldiers, is a constant grinding reality. You understand that your existence is purely conditional, contingent on your usefulness to a system that will discard you the moment you are no longer able to serve. The privileged few are insulated from the horrors you endure their lives, a stark contrast to your brutal reality. You are expected to revere them, to die for their glory, even as they show nothing but cold indifference towards your suffering. This constant exposure to blatant disregard chips away at your sense of self-worth, making you feel increasingly insignificant and expendable. Your place in this rigid hierarchy is fixed, and any attempt to challenge it, even internally, is a dangerous indulgence. Discrimination transforms you into a despised tool, an anonymous soldier forever trapped in a low status where life holds no more value than a mere instrument. In the brutal reality of war, where everything is uncertain, you cling to curses and portents as a desperate way to explain the inexplicable, even if they only sow deeper fear and anxiety within you. Ancient Egyptians, and especially soldiers, were deeply superstitious. A snake slithering across your path, a jackal howling in the night, a shooting star streaking across the sky, all were considered signs from the gods foretelling good fortune or impending disaster. This pervasive fear haunts you. You constantly scan for auspicious omens and desperately try to avoid any bad portents. If a sparrow flies into your tent, it might be a good sign. But if an owl hoots in the darkness, it's a chilling harbinger of death. Military priests and officers frequently exploit these beliefs to manipulate the soldiers' morale. They interpret omens to their advantage, inciting courage or absolute submission. If a bad omen appears, they might claim it's because you haven't prayed enough, haven't sacrificed enough, or haven't obeyed the pharaoh sufficiently. This psychological manipulation forces you to try even harder, to sacrifice even more, to desperately avoid incurring the wrath of terrible curses. You see other soldiers grappling with this same pervasive fear. Some become consumed by superstition, obsessively seeking omens everywhere. They whisper about ancient curses, tales of men who defied the gods and met horrific ends. The weight of unseen forces presses down on you, adding another layer to the already immense psychological burden of war. You learn to interpret every creak of the tent, every rustle in the sand, every strange animal cry as a potential message from the divine, a warning or a prophecy that demands your unwavering attention. This constant vigilance, born of fear, drains your spirit as much as physical exertion, leaving you perpetually on edge, caught in a ceaseless dance between belief and terror. Your existence becomes a desperate negotiation with the unseen, a constant struggle to placate indifferent gods and avoid unknown curses. Ominous curses and portents become a psychological burden, transforming your life into a ceaseless anxiety where destiny seems preordained by mystic signs impossible to change. 3.14. 2. Piety in Fear. 500 words. In the brutal world of war, where life and death hang by a thread, you cling to religious belief as a desperate lifeline, even as you know that the gods might be the very beings you should fear the most. Ancient Egyptians were deeply pious. They believed in thousands of gods, each with power and influence over their lives. In the army, this piety intensifies. You pray to the gods before each battle, pleading for protection, begging for victory. You offer them small sacrifices, whispered vows, hoping they will grant you favor. Ra Horus, all are invoked. You believe that the gods dictate fate on the battlefield. If you survive, it is because the gods protected you. If you fall, it is because the gods have willed it. The fear of divine wrath is a heavy psychological burden. You constantly worry that you might have done something wrong, offended a god. You see other soldiers grappling with this same fear. They whisper prayers, clutching small amulets, hoping these will protect them from divine punishment. Sometimes you see a soldier praying ceaselessly, yet he still falls on the battlefield. Despair sets in as you realize that prayers are not always answered. This constant struggle between faith and fear leaves you emotionally exhausted. You yearn for the simple, unquestioning faith of your childhood, but the horrors of war have tainted it with doubt. You continue to pray not just for protection, but for a semblance of control in a world utterly beyond your grasp. The rituals become rote mechanical, yet sometimes, in a moment of utter desperation, a genuine plea escapes your lips, born of raw, primal fear. The pervasive presence of the divine, the constant threat of their unpredictable fury, forces you into a state of perpetual supplication. You are constantly seeking favor, constantly trying to understand the cryptic message of the heavens, forever burdened by the immense power of beings who are capable of both creation and utter destruction. Piety, born of fear, transforms your life into a ceaseless struggle between faith and despair, where the gods are both your hope and your most terrifying enemies. In the living hell of war, where suffering is constant and death is ever present, the fragile hope of a brighter afterlife is the sole beacon, the final comfort for your tormented soul. Ancient Egyptians believed that death was not an end, but a transition to another world, an eternal life. This deep-seated belief is your most profound hope. You dream of the field of reeds of Osiris, a paradise where souls live in peace, free from hunger, war, and suffering. You know that for the wealthy and the pharaoh, preparations for the afterlife are elaborate, involving magnificent pyramids, carefully mummified bodies, and valuable grave goods. But for you, a common soldier, preparations for the afterlife are minimal, often non-existent. If you fall on the battlefield, your body will be left behind, unburied, unmummified. Your soul may wander aimlessly, unable to enter the field of reeds. This chilling prospect haunts you. You pray to Anubis, the god of death, and, embalming, begging him to guide your soul safely through the underworld. The fragile hope of the afterlife is the only thing that keeps you going. It is your final solace in overwhelming despair, a promise that your suffering will not be in vain. You cling to the possibility that beyond this brutal existence there is a place of peace, a land where you can finally be reunited with your loved ones, free from torment. This hope, though often overshadowed by the grim reality of your daily life, is a powerful motivator. It allows you to endure unimaginable hardship, to face death with a semblance of calm, knowing that a better existence might await you. The stories of judgment of the heart being weighed against Ma'at's feather become a personal obsession. You try to live as righteously as possible, even amidst the horrors, hoping to secure your place in that longed-for paradise. This fragile dream becomes your silent resistance against the overwhelming despair, a whisper of eternity in a world defined by fleeting, brutal moments. It's a testament to the human spirit's desperate need for meaning, even in the face of utter meaninglessness. Hope in the afterlife is a thin thread keeping you tethered to life, a promise of peace. After all, suffering ends, even if it is but a fleeting, illusory dream. In the army, your every step, every action must be meticulously calculated, for the Egyptian deities are constantly watching, and the slightest transgression can provoke their wrath, bringing disaster upon you and your comrades. You are taught that the gods can unleash calamities at any moment, a devastating sandstorm, a rampant plague, or a crushing defeat on the battlefield. All are potential signs of divine fury. The consequences of violating rituals or breaking sacred rules are severe. You could be deemed blasphemous, punished with death, or condemned to wander as a restless spirit for eternity. This fear haunts you relentlessly. You constantly question yourself. Have I done something wrong? Have I inadvertently offended a deity? You feel helpless for her. You cannot truly know what transgressions you might have committed. The pressure to adhere to every ritual, every religious stricture is immense. You must pray at the appointed times, offer sacrifices correctly, and always maintain an attitude of unwavering reverence. Military priests frequently exploit this fear to manipulate the soldiers' minds. They will claim that if disaster strikes, it is because you have not prayed enough, not sacrificed enough, or not obeyed the pharaoh sufficiently. This relentless psychological pressure adds another layer to your suffering, forcing you into a perpetual state of anxiety. You witness comrades fall ill or die, and your first thought is often, did they offend a god? This constant questioning, this desperate search for divine favor, permeates your every waking moment. You try to remember every intricate detail of the prayers and offerings, desperately hoping that perfect adherence will protect you. The pervasive sense that your life is controlled by unpredictable, powerful entities leaves you feeling utterly powerless, a mere pawn in a cosmic game. You are trapped in a cycle of appeasement and fear, knowing that true safety depends not on your own strength, but on the capricious will of the gods who seem indifferent to your suffering. The fear of enraged deities transforms your life into a burden of rituals where you endlessly struggle to appease the gods, desperately hoping to avert unforeseen calamities. In the depths of night, when the clamor of the military camp slowly subsides, and the chilling fear of death creeps back, you whisper desperate prayers, seeking a fleeting solace from the indifferent gods. You kneel on the cold ground, or simply lie there, eyes closed, whispering your pleas. You pray for yourself, begging the gods to protect you from enemy spears, from disease, from starvation. You pray for your family, imploring the divine to shield them from all dangers, from poverty and illness. These prayers are cries from the depths of your soul, your most desperate wishes for survival. You feel profoundly alone as you pray. No one hears you. No one can understand your pain. You wonder, do the gods truly listen? Do they care about a humble soldier like you? Sometimes doubt creeps into your mind. You have prayed so much, yet your suffering continues unabated. Your comrades still fall. Disease still rages. Your prayers seem unanswered, but then you continue to pray, for it is the only thing you can do. It is the only way you can find a glimmer of hope, a moment of solace in this brutal world. Prayer becomes a habit, a necessary ritual to keep yourself from succumbing to madness. You cling to the belief that even if the gods don't intervene directly, the act of prayer itself brings a small measure of peace, a brief respite from the relentless torment. The whispered words are a silent act of defiance against despair, a testament to the enduring human need for something beyond the physical, something to cling to when all else fails. You pour your heart into these desperate pleas, knowing they are your last resort, your only bridge to a seemingly indifferent divine realm. Desperate prayers are a fragile thread tethering you to hope, a ceaseless struggle between faith and doubt, where release can only come through absolute submission to the unknown. Despite being hundreds of miles away, the worry for your family back home remains a ceaseless burden, pressing down on your mind, tormenting you every minute more acutely than any enemy's spear. You constantly imagine their lives in the village, your wife, her shoulders thin and stooped, struggling with the fieldwork alone under the scorching sun, with no one beside her to help. Your children, perhaps already forced into labor for wealthier families to earn a meager living, their faces pale and drawn, their eyes hollow with hunger. You wonder, do they have enough clean water to drink? Are they falling ill? Who will protect them from the harsh tax collectors or the predatory bandits who constantly lurk, seeking easy prey? This fear haunts you. You know that your absence is a tremendous burden for them. The fields might lie fallow, the harvest might fail, and your family could face devastating famine. A profound sense of helplessness washes over you. You are a soldier, you carry a spear and fight, but you cannot fight hunger. You cannot fight disease. You cannot protect your family from the relentless forces that threaten them. You struggle with the guilt that your survival might be at the cost of their suffering. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong by accepting conscription? Did I abandon them? The guilt consumes you, a dull, persistent ache, deeper than any physical wound. You constantly replay images of your village in your mind, the simple life you had, now a distant, unreachable memory. The laughter of your children, the comforting presence of your wife, the familiar routines, all now contribute to a torment that no amount of physical exhaustion can numb. This isn't just worry. It's a relentless spiritual drain, leaving you hollow and constantly on edge. You yearn for news, any news, even bad news, just to break the agonizing silence. But none comes. Your hope for their safety battles ceaselessly with the grim realities you've witnessed, creating an internal conflict that never resolves. You try to push these thoughts away, knowing they weaken your resolve, but they return like persistent desert winds, whispering of a life you left behind, a life that might now be crumbling. The constant worry for your family transforms your life into an unending torment, where every hope and dream is tied to the fragile fate of your loved ones back home. In the army, you live in complete isolation. There are no letters, no messengers dedicated to your personal news. Information from home is an unimaginable luxury, and this lack of communication becomes a ceaseless torment. You have no way to communicate with your family. No letters from them reach you, and no designated messenger carries your words home. You are completely cut off from your old world. This absence of news is a source of endless anxiety. You constantly wonder, are they safe? Do they have enough to eat? Has anyone among them fallen ill? Rumors circulate through the camp, dark whispers of distant villages, destroyed of rampant plagues, of devastating famines. These rumors, though unconfirmed, are enough to sow deep fear in your mind. You don't know what is true and what is false. You feel utterly helpless. You can do nothing to aid your family, nothing to protect them. You can only hope and pray, desperately clinging to the slender thread of a positive outcome. This helplessness affects your mental state and your ability to focus. You struggle to concentrate on training or fighting your mind, constantly drifting back to your village. You become irritable, prone to anger, and find it difficult to maintain composure. The uncertainty is a heavy shroud weighing down your spirit, making every moment of waiting a form of psychological torture. You envy those rare soldiers who somehow receive a scrap of news, however old or vague, as it offers a fleeting connection to the life they left behind. But for you, there is only silence, a vast, oppressive emptiness where your family once was. This isn't just a lack of information. It's a constant gnawing void, a painful testament to your utter powerlessness. The silent screams of what might be far louder than any enemy. It binds you to an invisible prison of worry where your imagination, unchecked by fact, conjures endless scenarios of despair. The lack of news and profound helplessness transform your life into ceaseless torment where every hope is tested and anxiety is never truly alleviated. In the army, death is ever present, and when you survive a battle, a plague, or a famine, a strange gnawing guilt creeps into your mind, a relentless burden that consumes your soul. You look at the fallen soldiers, your comrades who have sacrificed everything, and you constantly wonder, why me? Why did I survive while they did not? This guilt haunts you. You feel unworthy of life, unworthy of every breath you take. You compare yourself to those who have fallen, those who gave everything for the pharaoh and the land. You ask yourself, did I do enough? Could I have done something to save them? These questions echo endlessly in your mind, tormenting you every second. The haunting thought of not having done enough, of not being worthy of this survival, presses down on you. It affects your mental state and your self-worth. You become more withdrawn, quieter, and always carry a sense of melancholy and self-reproach. The burden of survival is difficult to bear. You sometimes wish you had fallen on the battlefield alongside your comrades to escape this crushing guilt. You know that even if the war ends and you return home, should you survive, you will never truly escape this burden. It will be a permanent scar on your soul, an invisible wound that festers with each passing day. The faces of the fallen, though blurred by time and trauma, remain etched in your memory, silent accusers. You try to rationalize, to tell yourself that it was fate, the will of the gods, but the guilt persists, a corrosive force that eats away at any joy or peace you might find. This isn't courage, it's the grim weight of being spared a constant reminder of the lives that ended, so yours could continue. It's a profound, isolating pain, a secret torment that you cannot share, for who would understand the guilt of merely existing? The guilt of surviving is a ceaseless burden, transforming your life into internal torment, where true release can only come from accepting your fate and forgiving yourself. In your fleeting dreams, you see the faces of your children, gaunt and pale, their eyes sunken from hunger and deprivation, a heartbreaking sight that tears at your soul more than any physical wound. You imagine your children struggling with relentless famine. They lack sufficient food and clean water. They might be forced into labor for wealthier families, performing tasks far too heavy for their young bodies. Their hands grow callous, their backs bend prematurely, and the innocent smiles you cherish vanish from their faces. The pain of a father unable to protect his children is an unending torment. You are a soldier, you wield a spear in battle, but you cannot fight hunger. You cannot fight disease. You cannot shield your family from the relentless forces that threaten them. You know that prolonged malnutrition and the harsh living conditions will have long-term consequences for their health and future. They could suffer from stunted growth, chronic illness, and might not even reach adulthood. Their future is bleak, devoid of hope. You feel utterly desperate. You have sacrificed everything for the pharaoh and for the land, yet your family endures horrific consequences. You constantly question, is my sacrifice worth this? Am I exchanging my life for their suffering? The images of their suffering replay in your mind a ceaseless torment. You imagine their cries, their empty stares, their small, trembling bodies. This guilt, this helplessness becomes a heavy weight, pressing down on you, stealing your breath. You yearn to be with them, to offer comfort, to find a way to feed them, but you are trapped 1,000 miles away, powerless. The weight of their unseen pain is heavier than any armor, any weapon you carry, a constant reminder of the brutal price of your conscription. You cling to the faint hope that they are still alive, but that hope is constantly assaulted by the grim realities you witness daily, leaving you in a state of perpetual, agonizing uncertainty. This isn't just concern. It's a profound, visceral anguish, a constant silent scream from your very soul. The impact of hunger and deprivation on your children transforms them into innocent victims of war, and you, the helpless father, live with the ceaseless haunting of their tragic fate. In this brutal world, news of the death of loved ones often arrives belatedly, like a sudden, unexpected stab to your heart, bringing an unshareable agony that cuts deeper than any blade. One day, a soldier from a neighboring village, someone you vaguely know, whispers news from home. Your father has succumbed to a recent plague. Your mother didn't survive the harsh winter. Or even worse, a younger sibling has starved to death. The pain crashes over you like a tidal wave. You want to scream, to lash out, to destroy everything around you, but you cannot. You must suppress all emotion, for in the army there is no room for weakness. You cannot return home to attend their funerals. You cannot bid them a final farewell. You cannot place a lotus flower on their grave. You feel stripped of the right to grieve, of the right to share your sorrow with surviving family members. The torment intensifies as you realize they died in agony, in deprivation, without you by their side to comfort them. You wonder, did they remember me in their final moments? Did they forgive me for leaving? This loss leaves you feeling more isolated than ever. Your life becomes meaningless. Who are you fighting for now? What is the purpose of your survival? This profound grief, though silent, weighs heavily on your spirit, transforming your inner world into a desolate landscape. You carry the burden of unspoken farewells, of unexpressed love, of a void that can never be filled. The endless march, the brutal drills, the constant threat of death, all seem utterly trivial compared to this crushing personal loss. You look at the indifferent faces of your comrades, knowing they can never truly understand the depth of your pain. This isn't just sadness. It's a deep, existential void, a realization that the very anchors of your being have been ripped away. You are a walking testament to war's relentless capacity to destroy not just bodies, but the very fabric of human connection. The loss of loved ones in agony transforms your life into ceaseless sorrow and despair, where every joy is stripped away and death offers no true peace. In the life of a soldier, death is not a distant concept. It's an unceasing companion, constantly lurking, waiting to claim your life at any moment. Every time you wake up, you know that this day could be your last. Death constantly threatens you from all directions. The spear of an enemy, in battle disease, spreading through the camp, the gnawing hunger that consumes your strength, or a sudden accident during a march or labor. You witness death, striking indiscriminately. It claims the lives of young and old soldiers alike, the strong and the weak, the wealthy and the poor. All are prey to the grim reaper. The fear of death haunts you. You constantly wonder, will I survive this battle? Will I succumb to disease? You see this same fear in the eyes of your comrades. They whisper prayers, carrying small amulets, hoping these will protect them. But gradually, that fear transforms into indifference. You accept death as an inevitable part of life, a normal occurrence. It no longer startles or alarms you. You look at the bodies left behind with vacant eyes, for you know that could be your own fate. The constant presence of mortality strips away all illusions of control, leaving you with a profound sense of helplessness. You become accustomed to the stench of decaying flesh, the sight of lifeless eyes staring blankly at the indifferent sky. Your existence is reduced to a desperate, moment-by-moment struggle devoid of long-term hopes or plans. The psychological toll of living under the constant shadow of death is immense, slowly eroding your spirit, making you question the very purpose of your fight. You observe the stoicism of your superiors and attempt to emulate it, burying your fear deep down, for any sign of weakness is a luxury you cannot afford in this brutal environment. This isn't just a grim reality. It's a profound, constant psychological torture where every breath is a stolen moment from the inevitable. Death is a constant foe, transforming your life into a continuous struggle against fear and despair where the only release may be acceptance of your fate. When death comes, it not only claims your life, but also strips away your identity, transforming you into an anonymous name, forgotten by history, a soul with no resting place. If you fall on the battlefield, your body will be left there. There will be no funeral rites, no tombstone, no one to remember you. Your corpse will decompose under the scorching desert sun or be hastily buried in a shallow sandpit. You will become part of the dust, a name erased from the world's memory. Your family will never know your fate. They will wait for you, hoping for your return, but eventually they too will accept the grim truth that you have vanished. The pain of oblivion is more profound than any physical pain. You feel yourself disappearing without a trace, as if you never existed. All your sacrifices, all your suffering, all your battles become meaningless. You leave no legacy, no one to carry on your story. This anonymity is terrifying. You witness other soldiers being buried haphazardly, their identities lost to the sands, and you know that you are destined for the same fate. The grand promises of the pharaoh of eternal glory for those who serve him ring hollow in the face of this brutal reality. You are merely a number, a statistic in a vast military machine, easily replaced, quickly forgotten. This isn't just the end of a life. It's the erasure of a being of profound injustice in a culture obsessed with preserving names and identities for eternity. You become a walking testament to this harsh truth, a silent reminder that for the common soldier, immortality in the afterlife is a privilege earned by the elite, not by endless suffering and sacrifice. Your struggle, your pain, your very existence will fade into the indifferent desert, leaving no mark behind. Accepting an anonymous fate is a profound agony, transforming death into a complete disappearance, where identity and memory are forever lost to history. In the military camp, when a soldier falls burial, is not a solemn ceremony, but a hasty, perfunctory task, utterly devoid of respect, performed only for the sanitation of the living. There are no precious wooden coffins, no fine linen shrouds, no valuable grave goods. The soldier's body is dragged from the tent, sometimes wrapped in nothing more than a rough piece of cloth or a torn kilt. A shallow sandpit is hastily dug. The corpse is unceremoniously dumped into it, without dignity, without prayer. It is quickly covered with sand and rocks. There are no solemn prayers from a priest, no tears or wailing from family members. Only the silence of the surviving soldiers, their eyes vacant and numb. The stench of death permeates the entire camp, thick and oppressive. You learn to live with this foul odor, to ignore it, for it is the only way to avoid going mad. Witnessing these hasty burials, you gradually accept death as a normal occurrence, an inevitable part of military life. It no longer fills you with fear or sorrow. You know that this could be your fate at any moment. The casual disregard for the fallen is chilling, a stark contrast to the elaborate burial rituals practiced in civilian life. You realize that your life, in the eyes of the army, is cheap, disposable. There is no time for mourning, no room for individual grief. The constant presence of death, the sheer volume of bodies to be disposed of, forces a brutal efficiency that strips away any remaining shred of human dignity. These hurried burials are not about honor. They are about expediency, about preventing the spread of disease, about clearing the ground for the next wave of soldiers. The silent, unceremonious act speaks volumes about your value as a conscript, a grim testament to your expendability. You carry the weight of these forgotten comrades, knowing that their fate will likely be yours, leaving no mark behind. Hasty burial rites are a brutal reminder of the scarcity and disregard for a soldier's life, where death holds no dignity, no respect. In ancient Egyptian culture, the soul's rest after death was paramount, but for a soldier fallen in the desert, the haunting dread of not being at rest becomes a ceaseless torment. You know that if your body is not properly buried and mummified, your soul will be unable to pass into the afterlife, condemned to wander aimlessly between this world and the next. You fear that your spirit will not enter the field of reeds of Osiris, that you will never reunite with your departed loved ones. The haunting image of your own unburied corpse exposed in the desert, devoured by scavengers, constantly torments you. You desperately do not want to suffer that fate. You whisper prayers to Anubis, the jackal-headed god of embalming, and the dead, pleading for him to guide your soul safely to the underworld, to grant you proper rest. This haunting fear deeply affects your psyche. You become more withdrawn, quieter, always carrying a sense of melancholy and foreboding. You look at the stars in the night sky, wondering if the souls of the unburied are looking down upon you, if they are wandering eternally. You know that this fear will stay with you until your last breath. The stories of restless spirits of the tormented dead who cannot find peace become vivid realities in your mind. You try to remember every ritual, every prayer, every taboo, desperately hoping that somehow adherence to these will spare you from such a gruesome fate. This psychological torture is a constant companion, adding another layer to the already immense suffering of military life. Even the thought of dying in battle is less terrifying than the prospect of your soul being eternally adrift, a fate worse than any physical pain. You cling to the hope of a proper burial, a fleeting chance at eternal peace. But the grim realities of the battlefield constantly threaten that last desperate hope. The indifference of the desert, the casual disposal of the dead, fuel this profound spiritual anxiety, leaving you in a perpetual state of existential dread. The haunting dread of not being at rest transforms your life into a spiritual torment where even death cannot bring true peace. You witness the stark contrast between the death of an anonymous soldier and the magnificent passing of the pharaoh, a brutal disparity that tears at your soul, plunging you into profound injustice. When the pharaoh dies, the entire empire plunges into mourning. Funeral rites last for weeks, sometimes months, involving colossal processions, meticulously mummified bodies, and lavish tombs filled with gold jewels and precious artifacts. Priests recite solemn prayers, ensuring the pharaoh's soul safely enters the field of reeds, where he will live eternally in glory. That is the death of a god, a king. But for you, death is merely a shallow sand pit, a rough piece of cloth, and oblivion. No one will remember you. No one will pray for you. You are simply a tool, discarded after serving its purpose. This profound injustice is a harsh reality you must confront. You know that your life holds no value compared to even a fraction of the pharaoh's grandeur. You fight, you suffer, you sacrifice everything, but it is all merely to solidify his power and ensure his immortality. You accept this injustice, for it is your destiny. The sight of the endless rows of common soldier graves, shallow and unmarked, stands in stark contrast to the colossal pyramids and grand tombs built for the elite. You are a nameless sacrifice, one among thousands whose existence is merely a footnote in the grand narrative of the pharaoh's reign. This realization is soul-crushing, stripping away any lingering sense of personal worth or purpose. You internalize the bitter truth. Your life is expendable, your death inconsequential. The very system you are forced to fight for will discard you without a thought, while celebrating the lives of those who never face the horrors you do. This profound disparity gnaws at your spirit, leaving you with a lingering sense of resentment and despair. You are forced to live with this blatant inequality, knowing that even in death, your fate is dictated by a rigid hierarchy that places no value on your suffering. The disparity in death is a brutal reminder of class distinction, where human value is determined by status, and your sacrifice is ultimately meaningless. In the Egyptian army, even amidst your own brutal existence, you recognize a stark line separating you from those even lower, the slaves, treated as mere property, not human beings. You constantly witness the presence of slaves throughout the military camp and on the arduous marches. They are forced into the most backbreaking and dangerous tasks, pulling wagons, digging trenches, building fortifications, and performing the most menial duties for soldiers and officers. They are despised, beaten, and publicly humiliated without any right to protest. Despite your own oppressive life as a low-ranking conscript, you cling to the fragile distinction of being a free man, at least in name, someone who deserves to die on the battlefield, rather than be sold like an object. This subtle difference, however precarious, offers a small measure of solace amidst your despair. You observe officers and nobles treating slaves with casual cruelty like inanimate tools, and you learn to emulate this attitude not because you wish to, but because it is how you assert your own fragile position within this brutal hierarchy. You never want to become a slave, and that fear drives you to obey every command, to fight desperately, to avoid capture, to prevent yourself from being branded and bought. You accept this rigid class system, for it is the absolute law of the world. You inhabit a law you are powerless to change. The sight of them perpetually exhausted their eyes, vacant, serves as a constant reminder of the abyss below your own precarious standing. You may suffer, but at least you possess a nominal freedom, a sliver of dignity denied to them. This acceptance of the social order, however bitter, is a survival mechanism ensuring you don't stray into the even darker realms of oppression. You avoid eye contact, avoid any gesture of sympathy, lest you be perceived as weak or worse associated with their plight. Your existence is harsh, but theirs is utter bondage, a stark truth that defines your every interaction within the camp. This stark class distinction is a brutal reminder of freedom's fragility, transforming you into someone living in constant fear, caught between the brutality of war and the utter disregard for human dignity. In the military camp, you frequently witness horrific acts of cruelty toward slaves, sights so appalling they make you question if you possess any humanity left. You see slaves mercilessly flogged with whips and beaten with clubs, often for the slightest perceived infraction, or even no fault at all. Their agonizing screams tear through the air, but no one cares. Officers and soldiers watch with indifferent eyes, as if these are ordinary daily occurrences. Slaves are forced to work until they collapse from exhaustion, and when they do, they are left to suffer without mercy. You see the deep scars etched onto their backs, the festering wounds, and you know their lives are a living hell. Sometimes a fleeting sense of pity stirs within you, but you quickly suppress it. In the army, weakness means death. You are not allowed to show emotion. Gradually, you become desensitized to these brutal sights. You watch them being beaten, being humiliated, but you no longer feel anything. The brutality of war has eroded your soul, transforming you into a cold, indifferent being. You accept violence as an intrinsic part of life, an inevitable reality in this world. You know that this is the only way to survive. The casual cruelty shown towards them is pervasive. They are denied sufficient food, water, and rest, kept alive just enough to perform their back-breaking tasks. Their pleas are met with scorn, their pain with indifference. This constant exposure to raw, unchecked power and suffering reshapes your moral compass. You learn that might makes right, and that compassion is a dangerous liability. The line between victim and perpetrator blurs as you yourself become desensitized, capable of witnessing unimaginable horrors without a flicker of emotion. This internal transformation is grim, a necessary evil for survival, but it leaves you hollow, a silent witness to your own dehumanization. Witnessing brutality toward slaves transforms you into someone indifferent to the suffering of others, a person living with constant violence and a soul slowly eroded by callousness. Despite being a pharaoh's soldier, the fear of being degraded to a slave constantly haunts you, a nightmare far worse than dying on the battlefield. You know that your position in the army is precarious, a defeat in battle, being captured as a prisoner of war, a harsh punishment for a minor infraction, or even an arbitrary decision by a high-ranking officer. All could lead to you being stripped of your rights and transformed into a slave. The nightmare of slave life constantly occupies your mind. You fear not only the loss of your freedom, the inability to control your own destiny, but also the humiliation, the ceaseless torment, the treatment as a mindless animal. You have witnessed slaves living in utter hell, and you refuse to suffer that fate. This profound fear drives you to fight desperately, to obey every command absolutely without making any mistakes. You would rather die on the battlefield to fall in a moment of fleeting glory, however ephemeral, than to live a life of slavery, trampled upon and humiliated every single day. The boundary between life and death seems to blur compared to the chasm between a free man and a slave. Death offers release, while slave life is an unending torment. This desperate aversion to slavery influences your every action. You push yourself beyond your limits during drills, fight with ferocious abandon in combat, and meticulously adhere to every regulation, all to avoid the horrific fate that awaits those who fall into bondage. The sight of a slave's vacant eyes, their scarred bodies, is a potent constant reminder of the degradation you must avoid at all costs. You understand that this fear is a powerful motivator, a constant push to exert yourself, but it also means living in a perpetual state of anxiety, never truly free from the chilling possibility of falling into that abyss. This isn't just a fear of physical suffering. It's a profound dread of utter dehumanization, of losing your very essence. The fear of being degraded to a slave is an immense pressure transforming you into a ceaselessly struggling warrior, fighting not just for survival, but to preserve your fragile dignity. Slaves in the Egyptian army are tireless labor machines exploited to their absolute limits, serving every need from combat to construction without a single complaint. You see slaves toiling from dawn until deep into the night, burdened with heavy loads, wielding crude tools under the watchful, unforgiving eyes of brutal overseers. They have no right to rest, no right to refuse any task, no matter how dangerous or backbreaking. On marches, they pull supply carts, carry provisions and military gear, and clear paths through treacherous terrain. In camp, they dig trenches, build fortifications, serve food, and dispose of waste. In the pharaoh's colossal construction projects, like pyramids or temples, they drag enormous stone blocks under the scorching sun, enduring constant injuries and rampant diseases. Their bodies waste away rapidly from overwork and severe malnutrition. Many collapse and die on the job, only to be quickly replaced by others. The system's utter indifference to the lives of slaves is terrifying. They are merely numbers disposable tools that can be easily replaced. No one cares about their pain, their exhaustion, or their deaths. The sheer scale of their suffering is normalized a background hum to your own existence. You see them pushed past human limits, their bodies contorting in pain, yet forced to continue by the whip. This constant exploitation is a grim testament to the pharaoh's boundless ambition and the dehumanizing nature of absolute power. You observe how efficiently the system consumes, lives a silent, brutal grinder that demands ceaseless labor until the body fails. This isn't just about forced labor. It's about the systemic obliteration of identity, of spirit, of any hope for a life beyond endless, agonizing toil. Their silence, born of fear and utter hopelessness, speaks volumes about the depths of their suffering, a stark mirror to the brutal realities of this ancient world. The relentless exploitation of slave labor transforms them into walking corpses, serving the pharaoh's ambition. Without any hope or dignity, their lives a ceaseless, brutal torment. Despite the thin line separating a free soldier from a slave, you recognize a shared anguish, a common oppression borne by all the downtrodden under the pharaoh's unyielding hand. Sometimes in fleeting moments, your eyes meet those of a slave. In their gaze, you see the same profound exhaustion, the same deep despair, the same pervasive fear that you yourself carry. It's a silent, wordless understanding, an unspoken acknowledgement that both of you are victims of a brutal system. You might not speak to them. You cannot help them, but you comprehend their suffering. Both of you are exploited for your labor, treated as mere tools, your lives equally precarious under the weight of absolute power. The violence is not solely directed at slaves. Low-ranking soldiers like you are also beaten, humiliated, and thrust into dangerous situations, just as slaves are. The difference is only a matter of degree. The shared burden of oppression is a heavy weight, an invisible bond connecting you to them. Sometimes you witness a slave being brutally punished, and a surge of anger rises within you, not just out of pity for them, but also for the inherent injustice that all of you endure. Deep down, you know that if things were to change, If this tyrannical system were to crumble, perhaps there would be a unity among the oppressed. But this remains a fragile hope, a distant dream in this brutal world. The shared experience of being voiceless, of being disposable, of having your life dictated by distant indifferent powers, creates a bitter, internal solidarity. You see their resilience, their quiet endurance, and in it you find a reflection of your own. This isn't about breaking down social barriers. It's about recognizing a common fate, a shared struggle against a force that seeks to strip all humanity away. You are both bound, albeit by different chains, to the relentless wheel of the pharaoh's empire, your suffering a silent collective testament to its insatiable demands. The occasional glance, the shared sigh, is a small, profound act of recognition, a reminder that even in this dehumanizing landscape, a flicker of shared humanity can persist. The shared suffering is an invisible bond among the oppressed, where fragile hope for liberation can only exist in fleeting moments of silent understanding. You've seen the murals, haven't you? The grand depictions of pharaohs in shining chariots, their armies marching in perfect formation, every soldier a bronze-clad hero, triumphant and unblemished. You imagine the glory, the golden masks, the endless treasures. That's the myth ancient Egypt sells then and now. The reality for an Egyptian soldier, however, was a world away from such gilded dreams. Forget the gleaming gold. Your daily reality was mud. Mud bricks for your hut, mud under your sandals, mud clinging to your coarse linen kilt. Your shining bronze was often dull, corroded, and barely effective. Your chariot was the luxury of the elite, never touched by common soldiers like you who marched miles upon dusty miles under a sun that baked your skin to leather. The grand pyramids? The magnificent temples. Yes, they existed, but for you, they were monuments to endless back-breaking labor, built by the sweat and often the lives of men like you. You didn't fight for glory on a gilded battlefield. You fought for survival, for a mouthful of gritty bread, for the faint hope of seeing your family again. The image of the proud, unyielding Egyptian warrior etched in stone for eternity was a beautiful lie designed for the pharaoh's immortality, not for your brutal, anonymous reality. Your life was not a celebration. It was a sacrifice. And the only treasure you collected was the dust of 1,000 marches, the scars of 100 battles, and the quiet despair of a soul slowly consumed by an empire's relentless demands. You've read the heroic tales, perhaps heard the bards sing of duels between champions, of intricate strategies unfolding on a grand scale of warriors moving with the grace of gods. You imagine yourself, spear in hand, skillfully parrying blows, executing complex maneuvers, learned in endless, disciplined training. That's the myth of ancient warfare, a romanticized dance of skill and honor. The reality, however, was a terrifying, chaotic maelstrom of screaming blood and primal instinct. Forget complex tactics. The battlefield for a common Egyptian soldier was a brutal, overwhelming crush of bodies. You didn't engage in elegant duels. You were a single, vulnerable body in a tightly packed, suffocating wall of men, pushing, shoving, stabbing, desperately trying to survive the next breath. Your training, however rigorous, dissolved into a blur of survival. The roar of thousands, the metallic tang of blood in the air, the sheer crushing force of the enemy charge, these overwhelmed any notion of skill or strategy. You thrust your spear blindly, your eyes wide with terror, hoping to hit something, anything, before you were hit yourself. There was no time for finesse, no room for individual prowess. Your survival depended on the man next to you, on the cohesion of the line, and on sheer dumb luck. When the line broke, it was a terrifying free-for-all, a scramble to escape the crush, to find a moment of respite to simply breathe. The glory was a lie, a story told by scribes who never tasted the dust and blood of a real battle. Your combat wasn't art. It was brutal, desperate butchery. And your only strategy was to keep moving, keep striking, and pray silently, relentlessly that you wouldn't be the next body added to the anonymous pile. You might have heard of the legendary Egyptian physicians, men whose knowledge of anatomy was so advanced they could set bones, stitch wounds, and even perform trepanations that patients miraculously survived. You imagine their sacred texts, their meticulous observations, their divine connection to healing gods. That's the myth of ancient Egyptian medicine, a vision of advanced, almost miraculous care. The truth for a common soldier was a far grimmer reality, steeped in superstition, desperate guesswork, and the pervasive stench of death. Forget miraculous cures. Your body was a fragile vessel, constantly under siege by invisible enemies. A simple cut a splinter of fever, these were not minor ailments. They were potential death sentences. There were no antibiotics, no understanding of germ theory, no sterile tools. Infections festered, turning limbs into swollen, weeping masses of agony. Healers, often priests or local shamans, mixed questionable herbs with incantations or applied poultices of moldy bread and animal dung, hoping for divine intervention. You were more likely to die from the cure than the illness itself. Fevers raged through the crowded camps, dysentery turned your insides into a liquid fire, and every morning brought the chilling discovery of another body silently claimed by a sickness no one could name or understand. Your body was not a sacred temple to be healed. It was a perishable tool, and when it broke, it was discarded. The advanced medical knowledge existed, yes, but it was often reserved for the elite, for the pharaoh, and his favored few. For you, the common soldier, health was a gamble, recovery, a miracle, and death, a constant waiting shadow. This wasn't healing. It's a relentless losing battle against forces you couldn't see, couldn't fight, and could only pray to avoid. Your suffering was your own, largely unhealed, largely unnoticed, a silent testament to the brutal indifference of a world that valued your labor more than your life. The story of the Egyptian soldier stripped of his identity and thrown into the grinder of war is a stark reminder of how easily humanity can be controlled by absolute power. The pharaoh, cloaked in divine authority, wielded the lives of millions as mere pawns in his grand designs. Your very existence was justified only by your utility to the state, your suffering a necessary cost for the glory of a distant king. Religion, often a source of comfort, became a tool of control, its sacred pronouncements twisted to justify endless war, brutal labor, and unquestioning obedience. The gods, you were told, demanded your sacrifice, your humility, your unquestioning submission. And the army, with its rigid hierarchy and relentless discipline, became the physical embodiment of that control-breaking individual will and forging it into a collective, unthinking force. You were not a person with dreams and fears. You were a number, a body, an expendable resource in a system that devoured lives with chilling efficiency. This isn't just ancient history. It's a timeless warning. How often do we even today surrender our autonomy to systems that promise security but demand silent obedience? How easily can grand narratives of nation, of glory, of divine will be used to justify unimaginable suffering? The Egyptian soldier's brutal life whispers a chilling truth. The most dangerous chains are often the ones we don't even see forged, not in iron, but in ideology and fear. The echoes of the Egyptian soldier's suffering ripple through time, finding uncomfortable resonance in our modern world. The young men sent to distant wars, their lives abruptly uprooted their bodies, broken their minds, scarred by unspeakable horrors. Isn't this still happening? The families left behind clinging to fragmented hope, struggling to survive in the absence of their loved ones, bearing the silent, grinding burden of their sacrifice. Isn't this still a reality? The psychological toll of combat, the invisible wounds of trauma, the quiet despair that can consume a soul long after the battles have ceased. Isn't this still a haunting legacy of every conflict, the arbitrary power of the state, the casual disregard for individual lives in the pursuit of grand ambitions, the way human beings are reduced to statistics on a ledger? These are not relics of a forgotten past. They are persistent threads woven into the fabric of our present. We may have advanced medicine, air conditioning, and human rights charters, but the core vulnerability remains. The question of who pays the true cost of war, who bears the silent burden of glory, who suffers in anonymity for the ambitions of a few. These questions linger, as relevant and as painful now as they were thousands of years ago on the dusty battlefields of ancient Egypt. The Egyptian soldier is not just a historical figure. He is a timeless archetype of the human cost of conflict, his brutal life a silent, persistent warning that we are still, in so many ways, repeating the same ancient tragedies. Amidst the relentless brutality, the gnawing hunger, the pervasive threat of death, the Egyptian soldier clung to a fragile, stubborn hope, the simple primal desire to live. Every breath was a victory, every sunrise a small, defiant act against a world intent on consuming him. He endured the suffering, not for glory, not for the pharaoh, but for the faint, flickering dream of returning home, of feeling the sun on his face without the sting of sand, of tasting clean water, without the fear of parasites, of seeing his family's faces unburdened by endless worry. In the shared misery of the camp, in the silent glances exchanged with fellow sufferers, a fragile thread of human connection formed. A shared loaf of bread, a whispered joke, a moment of mutual understanding. These were tiny miracles, glimpses of humanity in a dehumanizing world. They were reminders that even in the darkest abyss, a flicker of light can persist, a quiet testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The Egyptian soldier's story is not just a tale of brutality. It is also a quiet ode to resilience, to the profound value of every single breath, and to the enduring human capacity for hope, even when hope feels like the most dangerous luxury of all. For it is in these small, stubborn acts of survival, in the refusal to simply surrender, that the true meaning of being human, even in the most brutal of times, truly reveals itself. The sun sets on the dusty plains of ancient Egypt, drawing a final heavy veil over the brutal realities of a common soldier's life. You have marched under a merciless, unblinking sun, your bare feet burning on endless, unforgiving sands. You have trained until your body screamed for mercy, your hands calloused, your muscles aching, pushed beyond all human limits by relentless discipline. You have tasted the bitter dust of ceaseless hunger and the metallic tang of pervasive fear. You have witnessed the chaotic horror of close-quarters battle, the casual brutality of a world that valued the pharaoh's glory over any individual human life. You have felt the insidious creep of unseen disease, the constant threat of venomous creatures, and the crushing weight of an indifferent, absolute power that dictated your every breath. You were a pawn in a grand divine game, your purpose reduced to silent, unquestioning obedience, your fate dictated by a distant pharaoh and the unpredictable whims of ancient gods. The fragile dream of home, of softness, of a life free from endless toil became a flickering ember barely kept alive by sheer stubborn will. Your body, a disposable tool, was pushed to its limits, then beyond, until each breath was a desperate victory, each sunrise a silent challenge. This was the life of an Egyptian soldier, a relentless grind of suffering, a testament to raw endurance, an anonymous name in the vast, unforgiving tapestry of an empire. And as the final echoes of battle fade into the profound silence of the desert, you feel the profound weight of that brutal reality settle, a quiet, chilling truth that history rarely sings about. And so your journey as an Egyptian soldier ends not with triumph, not with a hero's welcome, but with the quiet, brutal finality that defined your life from the moment you were conscripted. Whether you fell in battle, your body consumed by the relentless, indifferent sand, or succumbed to disease in a forgotten, squalid camp, your fate was sealed. No grand tomb awaits you, no elaborate mummification, no wealthy priest chanting your name into the field of reeds. Your grave will be shallow, anonymous, your memory quickly absorbed by the vast, silent desert. The pharaoh, for whom you suffered and died, will not mourn you. Your name will not be etched in stone. Your sacrifice a mere statistic in the relentless pursuit of empire. You were a weapon, a tool, a disposable resource, and when your usefulness ended, you were discarded, your life an unwritten footnote in the annals of a history obsessed with kings and conquests. The brutal truth is that your existence was fleeting, your suffering profound, and your end utterly without ceremony. Your dreams of home, of a family reunited, dissolved like sand in the wind, leaving behind only the chilling emptiness of unfulfilled hope. This isn't just a story of a soldier's brutal life. It's a stark, unblinking mirror reflecting the harsh, uncompromising indifference of a world that took everything, gave little, and forgot even less. Your life was a sacrifice, and the ultimate cruelty is that no one, not even those you fought for, would ever remember your name or the hell you endured. As the last echoes of the ancient Egyptian soldier's brutal life fade into the silence, a haunting question lingers in the quiet space of your mind. Could you have survived? Could you have endured the relentless sun, the gnawing hunger, the pervasive stench of death and disease, the constant threat of unseen enemies? Would your modern body, accustomed to comfort and convenience, have withstood the endless marches, the primitive training, the brutal, chaotic reality of hand-to-hand combat? Would your mind, shaped by empathy and individual freedom, have coped with the dehumanizing discipline, the constant threat of violence, the crushing weight of absolute power? Would your spirit, accustomed to choice and self-expression, have found a way to breathe in a world that saw you as nothing more than an expendable resource? Or would you have crumbled, broken, or simply disappeared into the anonymity of the sand? Another forgotten life consumed by the relentless machine of empire. It's a question that strips away the romanticized illusions of history, forcing you to confront your own fragility, your own limits. The gap between our world and theirs isn't just measured in centuries or technology. It's measured in the sheer, unimaginable capacity for suffering and resilience. And as you lie here, safe and comfortable, the question whispers softly: what would you sacrifice to survive? What would you become? As you close your eyes and let the silence settle, reflect on the world you inhabit. We complain about traffic, about slow Wi-Fi, about the small discomforts of daily life. But imagine waking up knowing that every single breath is a gamble, every drop of water a risk, every meal a negotiation with starvation. We take for granted the invisible comforts that define our existence. Clean water from a tap, soft beds, access to medicine that can heal a simple infection. The ancient Egyptian soldier's life, in its raw, brutal simplicity, is a stark reminder of the profound privilege we often overlook. His story is not just a tale of suffering. It's a mirror reflecting back the incredible resilience of humanity, the sheer stubborn will to endure against impossible odds. It prompts us to consider the sacrifices of those who came before us, the nameless millions who laid the foundations of civilization through sheer grit and unwavering perseverance. It reminds us that even in the face of absolute power, of relentless hardship, the human spirit, however bruised and battered, finds a way to cling to life, to hope, to a quiet dignity. And as you drift deeper into sleep, let that reflection linger, the gratitude for the comforts, the recognition of shared humanity, and the quiet understanding that the peace you now feel is a luxury paid for by the brutal, forgotten lives of countless souls who simply fought and suffered and endured so that you might have this very moment of rest. Now let the harsh images of the desert slowly fade. Let the screams of battle dissolve into distant, forgotten echoes. The clang of bronze, the sharp crack of the whip, the desperate cries of the hungry, let them soften, becoming mere whispers on a gentle wind. The relentless sun, that burning eye in the sky, is setting now, its fierce heat replaced by the soothing coolness of twilight. Feel the tension ease from your shoulders, the deep ache slowly releasing from your weary bones. The taste of sand and stale beer is gone, replaced by the soft, clean air of your own room. Imagine the vast, indifferent desert slowly receding, replaced by comforting walls around you, solid, safe, and utterly still. The ancient world, with all its brutality and its relentless demands, is pulling back, becoming a faint, distant memory, a story told from a time long, long ago. The heavy bronze shield, the dull bending spear, the rough linen kilt, they are no longer yours to bear. You are shedding the immense weight of history, leaving the dust and the heat behind. Your feet, once blistered and bleeding from endless marches, are now cushioned and warm, utterly free from pain. The unseen threats, the scorpions, the diseases, the hungry jackals, they are mere shadows in a forgotten tale, powerless to reach you here. The world of the pharaoh, of endless toil and anonymous graves, is fading, shrinking into a tiny point of light, far, far away. And as it recedes, a quiet calm spreads through you, a profound sense of release. You are no longer a soldier. You are just you, drifting gently, effortlessly away from the ancient world's harsh embrace. The story is almost done. The journey is nearly over. Let your breath deepen, now slow, and even, a gentle rhythmic pulse pulling you deeper into warmth. The murmurs of ancient battles are replaced by the soft, steady hum of your fan, a constant comforting presence in the quiet of your room. The desert tent, with its restless sounds and chilling fears, has dissolved completely, replaced by the familiar comfort of your own bed, soft and welcoming beneath you. The phantom itch of fleas, the persistent scent of sweat and smoke, they are gone, leaving only the clean, calm sensation of your sheets, the familiar scent of home. Remember the very beginning of our journey, the opening of your eyes in that dusty hut, the distant grumble of a war drum. That drum is silent now. The chaos of ancient Egypt, its relentless sun and unforgiving sands, has receded like a tide pulling back from the shore, leaving only profound peace in its wake. You are not there anymore. You are here, safe, quiet, breathing. The distant grumble you hear now is just the world outside, far away, content to let you rest. You are secure, you are warm, you are calm, and as your body sinks heavier into the mattress, feel the profound release of knowing that, unlike the ancient Egyptian soldier, your arduous journey has ended, not in dust and despair, but in gentle, unburdened sleep. The story is told, the night is quiet, rest now. Deep, peaceful, untroubled rest.